Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is our special WandaVision Episode 8 open spoiler discussion. In case the title was a little too complex for you to understand, this is going to be a full and open spoiler environment discussion about WandaVision Episode 8. Just to give you guys a warning about that. I'm going to let you guys know, too, if you want to send in a live observation, comment, question, theory, whatever. Unlike the John Campea Show, don't use the tip link in the description below. Actually use the super chat feature. That way we can make sure we know that your question was sent in for the WandaVision thing. And yeah, today is my birthday. Today's my birthday, so I decided to take half the day off today. Didn't do a regular John Campea Show earlier today. Thank you to everybody in the live chat who's sending in birthday wishes. I really appreciate that very, very much. Since today's my birthday, Anne is taking me out for dinner later, which means I need to wrap things up here at 5. It's 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right now. We're going to have to wrap this up by 5:30 p.m., and so that's why we had to do it a little bit earlier than we normally do. And unfortunately, it's just going to be me flying solo today. Anne is still working. She's got a job. So it's just going to be us guys. But listen, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes giving you my thoughts about WandaVision, Episode 8. And then we're going to spend the rest of the time just taking all of your observations, theories, and everything like that as well. So let me start with this. I started off last night really pissed off because I didn't see something correctly. Okay, so you know when you launch the Disney Plus app and it gives you a big banner at the top of what the newest episode is, right? And I always try to look away from it because I don't want to see an image of the new episode I'm getting ready to watch. I don't want to be spoiled for anything. And what happened was I turn it on and I just barely glimpse this. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, John, what's the big deal? What's wrong with that image? If you just quickly glance at Wanda with it looks like red and yellow on her shoulders with the hair and her hands kind of behind her back, I thought for a split second, as I was trying not to look really, I thought for a split second that was Captain Marvel. And in my head, I was thinking like, you mother effers at Disney, why would you put that in the big banner at the top as I'm getting ready to watch this show? No, seriously, don't laugh at me. I mean, just quickly glance at that image. Just do a quick glance at it. Tell me for a split second to you, it doesn't look like it's Captain Marvel. Come on. And with Monica being in the show, you know that was a possibility. And I'm like, I was so pissed off. I'm like, you stupid morons at Disney, you putting that in the thumbnail. And then, of course, very quickly, I realized that that wasn't Captain Marvel. So I felt better at that. But I started off feeling pretty silly. I felt a little bit silly about myself after that. Okay. All right. Couple things I want to cover before we get to your live questions. All right. Let's talk about the things John was obviously so right about, and then let's talk about the things John was so obviously wrong about. Thing I was right about, I've been saying all along. I think what this is ultimately going to be is about Wanda as a child in war-torn Sokovia, used to watch old sitcoms with her family, and that's what she's hearkening back to. There were a number of people who thought that. I wasn't the only one, but yeah, that kind of showed that was the case here. I said ever since episode 4, I think like the second to last episode was probably going to be a flashback episode. Now, this wasn't a total flashback episode, but for the most part, it was flashbacks showing things. Now, I thought they would just kind of keep the flashbacks to the things between Endgame and when WandaVision starts. They went a little bit further back than that, and there's a lot of stuff for us to unpack about those scenes. Oh my God. So was that. I said this wasn't actually Vision. I said this was not actually Vision, and sure enough, it's not actually Vision. It's something that believes he is Vision, but clearly he is not Vision. And by the way, Michael Burns is reminding us, oh my God, I almost broke down and cried. The best line of the show. What is grief if not love persevering? Fuck you, Kevin Feige. Why do you have to be fucking good at everything? Seriously, I'm watching this and I'm like, they say that line and I get a little teary in my eyes. I'm like, fuck Kevin Feige. Fuck that guy. I'm like, must you do everything great? Must you do everything great? Anyway, that line was so freaking good. Then Pietro, not Pietro from Fox X-Men. That was pretty much confirmed. Now remember, with all the things I'm saying I got right, let's not forget there is still one more episode to go. All these things that I'm saying I thought I got right, we may find out we're actually wrong. But for now, it looks like Vision wasn't anybody. Vision wasn't the actual real Vision. Pietro was indeed an imposter. He's not from the X-Men. They are not bringing in X-Men into this. They set up Wanda as a witch. Pure and simple witch. Right from a young age, she was a witch. An Infinity Stone enhanced her witch powers and prowess. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Okay, so there's a bunch of things I got right. Let's talk about things I got absolutely wrong. Now, while I said I didn't actually 100% buy into it, I was really getting into that theory that Agatha wasn't real. I was really getting into that theory. I was never willing to cross that line and say, okay, this is what I actually think it is. But still, I was talking that up a lot. I was really enjoying that theory that one of our fans wrote in, that Agatha wasn't actually real. She was just an extension of the Agnes character. That was wrong. Some of you guys wrote in and said, you know what? I think we're going to get White Vision and we're going to see like Vision versus Vision. And I said, well, that's an interesting idea, but isn't that just kind of copying the Logan ending where Logan had to fight Logan? So, it's a cool idea, but I don't think they're going to do that. They're totally doing that. That is absolutely what they're doing. So there was that. And it looks like pretty much all of us, I think most of us were all on the same page by now that, yeah, Wanda pretty much did everything, but there's just like a little devil on her shoulder kind of influencing her a bit. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. Wanda did do everything. Wanda created the hex. She was controlling everybody in town. It was just Agatha trying to nudge her to expose her real self. That is something that a lot of us thought. So that turned out to be true. So like every episode, whole bunch of things we got right, whole bunch of things we got wrong, and that's awesome because it keeps us on our toes, and who knows what the hell we're going to... Oh, another thing I got wrong. Here's another thing I got wrong. I really thought... I said I wasn't convinced, but if I had, if I was put on the spot and I had to say one way or the other, I would say I did kind of think the engineer would show up this episode, and that's why Jimmy was waiting outside of the hex. That's why Jimmy didn't go into the hex with everybody else. He was still outside there. I kind of got into the theory that he was out there to meet the engineer who we did not meet in episode 7. So check. That's another thing I was wrong about. So yeah, bunch of theories that we were right about, bunch of theories we were wrong about, and that's a beautiful thing because if we always get them all right, what's the point in watching the show? They're obviously not making it a good mystery. If we're getting it all wrong, then they're not making it a very good show because we're not able to, kind of keep up with what's going on. So this is a perfect mix. I love it. Now I want to point a couple things out. I watched WandaVision today again for a second time. And my friend Jay Lynn, by the way, thank you, Jay Lynn. My friend Jay Lynn, she sent me this gorgeous, beautiful ice cream pizza pie. Ice cream pizza pie, you say? Yes, ice cream pizza pie. Anyway, my friend Jalen, she sent us this ice cream pizza pie for my birthday. So as I'm sitting down partaking of this delicious ice cream pizza pie, I decided to pop on WandaVision again. And one of the things that jumped out at me at the beginning, when you go back to the Salem thing, did you guys notice? Honestly, give me a yes or a no in the live chat here, but wait till I tell you what it is. But did you guys notice that when Agatha's mother got serious and she floated into the air and she started shooting the power out of her hands, did you notice the crown of energy that kind of appeared on her head that was very similar to the shape of Wanda's thing? Did you guys notice that? Yeah, you guys are saying you noticed it too, right? All of you guys are saying you noticed it. I didn't notice it the first time I watched it. That kind of went over my head. And it was as I was sitting there. Yeah, I guess see one or two no's in there. But yeah, most of you guys, Timothy, Nate, Adam, Figueroa, you guys are saying you saw it too. And so when I saw it the second time and I recognized that, it changed the way that I saw the scene when it's Wanda in the room with the Infinity Stone, and as it's glowing yellow, and she sees that silhouette vision in front, not Vision, Paul Bettany vision, but she has a vision, and she sees that silhouette moving towards her. I'm like, I wonder if that's like a silhouette of Agatha's dead mother. I wonder if like Wanda is like the spiritual successor, like head of the coven kind of role to Agatha's mother. I mean, I don't know. It was very well could have just been a future vision of what she as Scarlet Witch would look like. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, so the vision thing. That scene, because if you guys remember, there was a scene, and let me see if I can find this. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. Let me look very, very quickly here. If you guys remember from Infinity War, there's this scene where Wanda is talking to Vision, and he's talking about some of his, anxiety about the stone and all that kind of stuff. And she says, "All I feel is you. I just feel you." Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember she said that in Infinity War? Somebody sent me a beautiful meme today of two shots put side by side. One of Wanda looking so happy at Vision saying, "All I feel is you," or "I just feel you." Right beside the picture of her standing over his dead body and saying, "I can't feel you. I can't feel you." Oh, the feels. I'm saying she's literally standing over a broken toaster, okay? She's standing over a broken toaster. And yet she says, "I can't feel you." And the way Elizabeth Olsen plays that role and the way she says it and spoke it, I was like, oh, like that was so powerful. And it also very deliberately ended the speculation about, is that actually Vision inside the hex with her? Is that actually Vision? And that was kind of their way of saying to us, Vision is gone. Vision's gone. And I just thought, oh, that was so powerful. But oh my God. When she goes to that plot of land that Vision had bought for them, because when she leaves Sword and gets into her car and she looks over and there's an envelope there, I was like, oh, is this a letter from, I've never thought Mephisto or Nightmare would be in it. I've been warming up to the idea, but I said, no, I still don't think they're going to be in there. But when I saw the envelope in the car, I was like, I wonder if that's like a note from Mephisto. "I can help you get your love back," or some kind of note like that, right? That's kind of what my first thought was. And then she drives to Westview and she's going through the town and we see all these familiar faces. We see all the familiar faces. And she goes to that plot and then she pulls out, and I thought, oh, did somebody leave her a note to meet me in Westview or something? And she pulls out the note and it's from Vision. And it's a diagram of the land and it says, "For us to grow old in." V. Oh, again, they had just slapped us across the face with "I can't feel you." I'm like, oh my God. And now here she is, having been through war-torn childhood, losing her parents, losing her brother, having lost Vision. And now she's standing there in this field. She reads this note from Vision, a note from Vision talking about their future and their happiness in a simple sentence, "For us to grow old in." And I'm like, oh, F you, Kevin Feige. Fuck you and all the little peons who work for you, writing this show and producing this show and directing this show. F all of you. And it was like hitting me right here. But that was nothing, ladies and gentlemen. That was nothing compared to what came next. And what came next is emotionally, not but one of the most resonant emotional scenes I've ever seen in a comic book movie. I mean, it's not quite up there with Jonathan Kent pulling young Clark into his arms and saying, "You are my son." That one is still like probably the top, but one of the most powerful emotional scenes is having looked at that note that said, "For us to grow old in." And then she breaks. and she drops to her knees, and it all hits her. All the loss, all the tragedy, all the grief. This godlike being, Wanda Maximoff, with all the power that she has, with so much grief and so much pain, and she drops to her knees and she lets out this scream. And again, I'm like, oh my God, like you felt her pain. Like you could be the coldest son of a bitch in the world, and you had to feel empathy in that moment. You had to feel empathy in that moment. It was so beautiful. It was so touching. It was so human. It was so human. And that's the thing that a lot of when Marvel is working best is when they can get beyond the godlike superpowers and blah, 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 and they get down to the humanity of it. And in WandaVision, they just keep getting back to the humanity of it. And we didn't see the Scarlet Witch in that moment. We didn't see this hyper powerful telekinetic. We didn't see this hyper powerful, reality bending power of the universe. We saw a broken woman, and they made you feel, and it was amazing. And it was amazing. Marvel is making this look easy, and it ain't easy. And I hope we fans remember this, that I know they're making it look easy, but what they are doing is profound. It's amazing. And I hope none of us take for granted how good this is. And I am more looking forward to Falcon and Winter Soldier, but holy crap, I wouldn't want to be them having to follow WandaVision. I would hate it, like in the old band days. I don't want to walk on stage after that opening act. It's tough. Anyway, it's beautiful. All right, guys, look. We're going to spend the rest of the day now taking your live comments and questions. Once again, if you want to get in a live comment, question, theory, observation, whatever, just use the super chat feature here on YouTube and we will get to it. And listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I know that in the next 3 hours, we're not going to get to every question that comes through, and that's okay, because I'm going to do part 2 of this video tomorrow. So all the questions that get sent in are indeed going to get answered. Don't you worry about it. Maybe not all of them today, but they will be answered in either part 1 today or in part 2. All right. With that said, let's get over to what you guys have to say. All right. Ryan Holman writes, what a great episode. So much to unpack. Can't wait for the finale. Geez, I'm like struggling. How long are they going to make this finale? Remember all those reports? The last 3 episodes are all going to be an hour long each, and I told you guys, don't believe that. Nobody from Marvel has said that. And sure enough, can I also say this? You know how disappointing it is? Tell me if you guys do this. Tell me if you guys do this. When I'm watching a show, especially if I'm really into it, every once in a while I'll pick up my remote and just hit pause for a second because I want to see how much time is left in the show. Do you guys do that too? I do it all the time. Especially if it's a show I'm loving, because then it's like, oh, good, there's still 20 minutes left. Excellent. You know what I mean? I pause just for a second to see how much time is left. What really pisses me off about WandaVision is like, oh, pause, and we're at like 35 minutes, and it says, oh, there's still like 9 minutes left. Oh, great, we still almost got like a third to do. And then you start playing, and 30 seconds later, the trailer starts playing, and you realize there's like 7 minutes of trailer. I was sitting here thinking we had another 5, 6, 7 minutes of footage, and nope, F you, they say to us. And it's just like a quarter of this show is the end credits. What are you doing? And although the end credits scene was pretty damn good. But yes, my friend, yes, so much to unpack. Cannot wait for the finale. Daniel Weissy writes, I think the Halloween episode is my favorite. Evan Peters' character was great. Reminded me a lot of early Jim Carrey. That was a great episode. That whole Halloween episode was fantastic. Hey, Wanda, how'd you do it? Yeah, that was a great episode, but I really do think with the emotional overtures, I think episode 8 was my favorite episode so far. I mean, they're just crushing it though, Daniel. But that Halloween episode was great. Lee McHenry writes, happy birthday, John. Thank you so much, my friend. I can't believe that did it. Agatha called her the Scarlet Witch and White Vision. This episode was so sad. There it is. I mean, hey, I was the first person on my show to call it out was Robert Meyer Burnett. He said, I think the show's going to end with the moniker Scarlet Witch being given. And sure enough, she goes, you are That's chaos magic, which kind of maybe suggests Cthulhu, or I never know how to pronounce the ancient god's name, although I don't think they're bringing him into it. I've said that all along, but still, chaos magic, you're the Scarlet Witch. So there's some kind of like witch prophecy, I guess. She's kind of like the Anakin Skywalker of witches, I guess. So I don't know. But did you notice that Agatha looked different at the end when she's hovering in the air and choking out her kids? Did you notice she looked different? Like her face looked a little different. Whatever. Oh, and by the way, the kids aren't real either. Did you notice when she said, "Let go of my children"? And what did Agatha say? Your children, Vision, this whole fantasy town. It's almost like she's listing off all the things she just made up. I've said from the beginning, I don't think the kids are real. And I personally think Agatha just gave us some evidence that the kids aren't real. Oh, yes, your children and Vision and this whole fantasy town. Like she was listing off the things that just Wanda created. Now, I don't know that for sure. Clearly, I don't know that for sure, but Wanda's heading for a very sad ending. All right. Jesse Keller writes, I lost all control over my bowels. Anti-Vision. Holy crap. Calling it now. Vision's mind will be transferred into the new body at the end. Boom. Except that's not Vision. That ain't Vision. Not the white one. The one in the hex with Wanda isn't actually Vision. That's a fake thing she created. And don't forget, in Spider-Man Far From Home, they say, Vision's gone. There is no Vision. So they may try to do that, but at the end of the day, it's still not really Vision. She lost Vision. There's a great comic strip that somebody sent me from the comics, and it's White Vision talking to Wanda's children and saying, yes, I have your father's body, and I even have many of his memories, but I am not your father, nor am I your mother's husband, right? Like, I look like Vision, but just so you children know, I am not Vision. I'm not your father. I'm somebody else. I look like your father. I have many of his memories, but I'm not him. I'm a completely different entity. And I think that's kind of where they're going here, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, next up. Sam Fisher writes, This is the best episode yet. I agree. I can't believe how on the nose your theories were, like Vision not being Vision and about this episode being a catch-up. Yes, but let's not forget I was also wrong about a couple of things too, right? But that's all of us. Every episode, some of our theories get confirmed, some of our theories get debunked. It is what it is, right? But yeah, oh man, Sam, the way this is shaping up, it's just all the damn feels. Rylan Holman writes, so it seems that Wanda did create Vision and the kids from nothing. I honestly would be fine if they find a way for them to survive outside the hex. Listen, I still don't think, you know what I said? I don't think that Quicksilver gets out of this, and clearly he doesn't. I don't think Vision gets out of this. I don't think the kids get out of this. But while I think it made it pretty clear Wanda just kind of created her kids, I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to have her kids be able to exit. Now, how come they can get out of the hex and Vision can't? I don't know. But I think there's a chance they'll come up with a way. They'll come up with a way that maybe somehow, some way, the kids survive this. Probably not. I still think she loses them too, but I don't know. We'll find out. All right. Next up, Dennis Williams writes, one of two. Wow, Marvel retcons magic into the MCU by saying it was always there and Wanda always had magic. She stopped Stark's bomb from going off. Oh gosh, I don't even know where the second. I'm just gonna have to skip that, I guess. She stopped Stark's bomb from going off. Okay, this is important. Listen to me here. This is key. This episode never told us Wanda always had powers. It didn't. What we saw was Agatha theorizing. We saw Agatha theorizing that Wanda may have had powers all along. But you notice in Wanda's flashback, we never saw her using magic to stop the bomb from going off. And Wanda says, no, it was just a defective bomb. It didn't go off. What we saw was Agatha theorizing that maybe Wanda's had this power all along and that the Infinity Stone enhanced that power. I'm not saying it isn't what happened. I'm not saying Wanda didn't have that magic. She isn't a born witch. I'm not saying she wasn't born a witch. All I'm saying is let's be very, very careful. Kevin Feige and the folks at Marvel are very smart. They never actually said that that's what it is. We just saw one of the characters who wasn't there, Agatha, theorizing that's what it is. And it very well could be. It very well could be. But just something for us to keep in mind. Okay, next up. Matt McLean writes, this was everything I wanted. I am so afraid they're going to give this show a by-the-book Marvel ending. Marvel Fake Death Universe strikes again. I mean, maybe, maybe not. I mean, I've been a little bit nervous about them doing a stereotypical paint-by-numbers, cookie-cutter superhero ending. And if they do, Kevin Feige will find a way to make it great. That being said, the brokenness of Wanda in this, this could be heading to a very, very dark ending. This could be heading to a very, very dark ending. Because if she's got to lose Vision again, which I think she is, and if she loses her kids, which I think she will, I don't know that for sure. I'm not willing to put money on that. We could still be heading for a very, very dark ending. Okay. Daniel writes, when Wanda was creating Vision, it looked like her powers were turning yellow. Maybe she built him by giving him her Mind Stone powers. I don't know. I mean, I know we as fans, and I do this too, trust me, I do this too. We look for total significance in every little detail, right? The power that was coming out to make Vision, it was yellow, like the Mind Stone. So was that the Mind? Maybe. I mean, what we may have seen in that flashback at Hydra, when the Mind Stone goes, whoa, maybe she absorbed a lot of its power. I mean, maybe it was that ability of an Infinity Stone that was doing it. Could be. All right. Next up, Grant writes, this episode was heartbreaking. The Wanda Pietro scene as kids, hard to watch that. My only question is, what is Agatha's endgame here? They still haven't explained that. True. But I mean, they kind of set it up a little bit, right? Like what we saw at the beginning in Salem was like they were throwing power at Agatha, but instead of throwing it at her, Agatha was then drew it out of them, and she sucked the life right out of them by drawing in their power. I think that goes back to that shark commercial of a feed on Yo Magic. So she might be looking for a way. There's several theories. One, she might be looking for a way she saw this incredibly powerful thing that Wanda did, and she wants to get that power for herself. Another option is, remember that scene when she killed the dog and the kid said, you should bring it back to life. And Agatha went, you can do that? Like, that's probably a power Agatha doesn't have. And maybe she's got somebody. Maybe Ralph is somebody she's trying to bring back from the dead, and she needs Wanda. I mean, I don't know. There's several theories there. But clearly she wants something from Wanda, even though they haven't explained fully her endgame yet, but we'll find out. Sam Fisher writes, I knew Hayward was lying about Wanda stealing Vision from Sword. I didn't. I'll be honest with you. That caught me by surprise. I never thought we would see White Vision. Gonna break Wanda's heart when she sees him. Yep, it is. It may break. She may have to kill Vision again. By the way, too, did you notice that Hayward was like actually very kind to Wanda when she went there? Like, he was actually quite kind. I mean, no government was ever going to give her the body of Vision. But the fact that he let her in, the fact that I thought he showed a lot of empathy to her. And he said, look, I can't let you take him, but I can at least let you say goodbye and all that kind of stuff. Now, why he pulled something dirty, like making it look like she stole the body, I don't know. But that goes back to my theory again. I think at the end of the day, Hayward is not evil. I think Hayward's a dick, but I don't think he's evil. I don't think he's the big villain or the big bad guy here. All right. Let's see where we're at here. Sam Fisher, all right. So Wanda is an untrained witch from some prophecy with her powers enhanced by the Mind Stone. Seems so. That's like 3 chosen ones in one. Yeah, it is a little bit, right? It is a little bit. I mean, we are now seeing the Scarlet Witch. And by the way, if she is truly a witch, that kind of increases the possibility of Mordo maybe showing up in the finale. Remember, he's in too many sorcerers, man. And we know he's going to be in Doctor Strange 2, and Doctor Strange is tied into this show. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Cam K writes, wow, they're going to really piss Wanda off now. Yep. They are going to piss her off. And I think it's going to come at her from a couple of fronts. I think Sword is going to piss her off. I think Agatha's going to piss her off. I think she's going to have to watch Vision die again, maybe even twice. She may have to see White Vision die and her version of Vision die. She might watch her kids get taken out of existence. Bad things, ladies and gentlemen, bad things. Axel writes, Westview looks really run down. Makes me wonder if Wanda actually improved the quality of life despite holding them captive. Plus, the moment Wanda sat down to watch TV, I just knew the bomb was coming. Oh, yeah. I think you're right about that, Axel. I think we all kind of knew that. It's like any minute now, that bomb is going to hit, especially when we saw her mother looking out the window and saw all the gunfights going on right outside their window. That was pretty big there, too. But remember, Quicksilver kind of said that to her too, right? Or should I say fake Pietro, kind of said that to her in the Halloween episodes. Like, hey man, I think you actually improved their lives. You certainly gave them better haircuts, better jobs. I mean, that was kind of maybe her own way of self-justifying things, maybe. But I think you're right. I think your observation there, Axel, is right on the money. I think you are right on the money about that. All right. Next up, Mike Goldberg writes, I called Pietro a week ago for fake Pietro. Was so happy when she said it. Great episode. I remember. Now, I can't remember if it was you, Mike, but I remember I saw a couple of people use the phrase Pietro, fake Pietro. And then when they pulled it out in the show, I'm like, oh my God. Like, okay, wait a minute. Can we just say this for a second? They have done several things in this show, going right back to like episode 4, that has shown they know their audience so well. They know exactly what we would be talking about when those shows would air. Remember the episode when Jimmy first shows up and then there's that whiteboard scene and he writes out all the questions on the whiteboard and it was all questions we were asking? It's like, holy crap, does Marvel know its audience or what? And then we come to this and then and Agatha pulls out the Pietro. It's like, holy crap, do they know their audience? Because they knew somehow that the fans would come up with this Pietro line, fake Pietro, and they threw it out there. And also, did you notice the line that Agatha says to Wanda? Says, wow, that accent really comes and goes, doesn't it, honey? That accent really comes and goes. It's like, holy shit, that's exactly what everybody's always saying. It's almost spooky. It is almost spooky how well they know their audience. It really is. All right, let's move on here. Sam Fisher writes, I think it was really cool. We saw her in the Scarlet Witch costume during her Mind Stone vision, pun not intended. Maybe that was the OG Scarlet Witch. That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering, okay, is that her seeing the future of herself? Or is she seeing a previous, like is Scarlet Witch like a mantle? Is there a successive line of Scarlet Witches? I mean, I don't know. Is that what she was seeing? I don't know. I think that's something we're going to find out. But you know what I said? I said, no, somebody wrote in last week and said, John, I think this series is going to end with us seeing Scarlet Witch in her classic Scarlet Witch costume. And I said, nah, it's kind of too cheesy of a costume. But you know what? I'm thinking I was wrong. I'm starting to think when episode 9 ends, we're going to see Wanda, a real pissed off, angry, broken Wanda saying, this is me now. And she's going to have her Scarlet Witch costume. Maybe not exactly like it was in the comic books, but a version of it. And I'm thinking maybe they are going to do that now. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see. All right, next up. Rylan writes, you know that White Vision will probably be evil. I'm thinking Ultron, sort of. We'll definitely see the two visions battle each other. You know what also I think could happen? They've had no time to test this sucker. No time. I wouldn't doubt if it starts doing what they wanted it to do, but it starts turning on them as well. And I wouldn't doubt if at the end of this thing, Wanda, Fake Vision, Sword may all actually have to team up to maybe fight this White Vision. That Sword may realize we can't actually control this thing. This thing's way too, we can't control it. So I don't know. I'm not saying that's what will happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go in that direction. All right, Sam writes, was it just me or did Han have a little de-aging in the opening scene. Her face looked airbrushed. It could have also just been the light. No, I think they de-aged her a little bit. I mean, first of all, let's be clear. Catherine Hahn, I think she's like 52. One second. Okay, Google. How old is Catherine Hahn? Find out in a second here. Sorry, 47. 47. I said 52. I must have been looked up somebody else. Catherine Hahn's 47 years old. I'm sorry, how great does she look for 47? Come on. Anyway. But yeah, I do think they de-aged her a little bit there because she's talking. They don't want her to look like the same age as her mother. So I think they aged up the actress playing her mother, and I think they de-aged her a little bit there. Next up, Sam Fisher writes, notice when they were going through the town, there was no Dottie, and the mailman wasn't anything. Sorry, John, that one theory was wrong. I think there's, I don't think we've come to the end of the mailman thing. I still think there might be something a little bit creepy about the mailman. Again, I never had a definitive theory about the mailman. I never thought the mailman was Mephisto or whatever. I just feel like there's something more there. I just feel like there still is. And I think maybe when we get into the finale, I don't think it's going to be anything earth-shattering, but I still think there's a little something more there. I could be wrong, though. Could be wrong. All right, next up. Will Lambert writes, one iteration of the Human Torch was he started as an android. Do you think that vision we saw at the end credits could be the MCU's Human Torch? Nope, zero. Listen, Kevin Feige said he's not bringing in Fantastic Four. He's not bringing in X-Men until his 5-year plan is done. And despite everybody saying X-Men are coming in, he clearly hasn't brought in X-Men. And he hasn't brought in Fantastic Four. Now, listen, even though I've been saying this whole time, you guys know I've talked about this dichotomy I've had in my head. Even though I've been saying, like, no, he's not bringing in X-Men, he's not bringing in Fantastic Four, I have also kind of thought, man, he would blow up the internet if Magneto shows up at the end, or if Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier shows up at the end, or if John Krasinski shows up as Reed Richards, right? I just knew those things would blow up the internet, but sure enough, he hasn't done that. I certainly don't think he's going to introduce Fantastic Four by having Vision become Human Torch. So I'm going to say I really don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it's an interesting outside of the box way of looking at it, Will, but I don't think they're going to go that way. All right, Sam Fisher writes, I love when a villain helps the hero, but only for their own goal. Agatha helps Wanda through her trauma because she wants power. True, but I can't help but wonder. Again, the comics are the comics. The movies and the TV shows are the movies and the TV shows. But remember, in the comics, Agatha is something of a mentor figure to Wanda. That doesn't mean that's what they're doing in the show, but I can't help but wonder if they might incorporate a bit of that. I mean, just because it's the comics doesn't mean they're going to do that, but I can't help but wonder if maybe that might be one of their angles. All right, next up, Darth Granton writes, some other stuff made no sense, though. Given how Civil War ended with Wanda on the run, with Cap, Vision alone had to be making... wait a second. Some other stuff made no sense, though. Given how Civil War ended with Wanda on the run with Cap, Vision alone had to be making those plans. Yeah, I don't know how that doesn't make sense. I mean, he could have been making those plans 6 months before the events of Infinity War. Like, we don't know how long he had that planned out at that point. So I don't know if it doesn't make sense. I don't know that it doesn't make sense. Anyway, next up, Michael Bachar writes, when Wanda saw the Scarlet Witch from the stone, was that her in the future or an alternate reality Scarlet Witch? I think it may not have been either. I mean, it could be she was seeing a vision of herself as Scarlet Witch. But once I recognized that Agatha's mother had that same shape of a power crown on her head and it was kind of the same shape, I think that opens up the possibility that it could be another Scarlet Witch she was seeing. One from, a previous generation. Whether it's Agatha's mother or the one before Agatha's mother. Again, I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm saying I think it might be another option, Michael. We'll find out. Next up, Suthius writes, you mean to tell me Vision was being dismantled just a few weeks ago, but Sword was able to put him back together in functioning order within that time. That is also something that struck me as a little bit odd. Suthius, I'm not going to lie. So you guys have had this body for 5 years, and you pretty much got it dismantled. And in 2 weeks, never mind 2 weeks, 2 days after Wanda brings down your drone and it still has some of the residual energy on it, in 2 days, you were able to piece him back together again completely and program some kind of operating system for him and make that all work? Really? You know, I get it. In every comic book movie, there's some point where we've got to be able to suspend disbelief a little bit. And I think that is one of the things that I think that was just one of the moments we had to suspend disbelief a little bit. They had that body for 5 years. They had been working on we had just seen it a few weeks earlier as Wanda looked at it and said, "I can't feel you," and he's completely dismantled. And really, they were able to put it all back together again, program an operating system, inject an AI, and get it up and running and powered when you just got this residual power from Wanda, and you've had it for 2 days. You haven't even had a chance to study it. Anyway, just one of those things we probably got to say, okay, we'll give you that one TV show. We'll give you that one. But yeah, that one stood out to me a bit too. All right, Sam Fisher writes, was the deed a thing Wanda already had, or was it left in her car? Because I thought it was left in her car, or was it a house vision left for them? I think it was already in her car. I think it was already in her car. Like, I think she went there already with it in her car. She was already looking at it before. So I think that is something that predated the events of Endgame, I think. All right, next up, Cam K writes, so is Hayward the big bad now? I don't think so. What's up with Agatha not calling her a Scarlet Witch, but the Scarlet Witch? Again, just prophecy. You're the chosen one. Now you're the chosen one. You are the Avatar. Think about it in terms of the Avatar, right? You're the Avatar. Not a Avatar. They never called Aang a Avatar, even though he was just the newest in the long line. You're the Avatar. And when you're gone, the Avatar will be born again, and you will be the Avatar. So it could be that. It could be that. I wouldn't read too much into the semantics of that. So yeah, there's that. All right, next up. Dennis Williams writes 2 of 2 from 5 hours ago. And the Mind Stone just awakened and supercharged what was already there. Bravo to Marvel. Also, is it just me, or was White Vision terrifying? Oh, I'm telling you, that was a terrifying sight. That White Vision was a terrifying sight, Dennis. No doubt. I am completely with you on that. Absolutely a terrifying sight. All right, next up. Tony Hurd writes, after this episode, I question if Agatha is a villain. She knows what Wanda is capable of and wants to stop her from causing more problems. Listen, remember, what is something that Agatha said to her? You are far more dangerous than you realize. She didn't just say, you're far more powerful. She didn't say, you are far more special. Agatha said to Wanda, you are far more dangerous, which echoes what Professor Xavier says about her in House of M. She's too dangerous. Except Professor Xavier says we've got to kill her because she's just too dangerous. We didn't see Agatha go there with that, but yeah. I mean, I'm not really clear yet. What is Agatha's endgame? Does she wants something from Wanda, but they weren't 100% clear on what that is. By the way, what is with that damn rabbit? That bird-eating rabbit. What's up with that rabbit? I want to know more about that rabbit. I want to see a Disney Plus spinoff show about the rabbit. Anyway, Sam Fisher writes, I'm starting to think the engineer line was put there because Feige knows we overanalyze everything, and he was to F with us. Maybe, yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, and when we said this last week too, people complaining, well, they hyped up this engineer. And I said, well, wait a minute, time out. They didn't hype up the engineer. We did. We hyped up the engineer. They literally said 2 lines about an engineer. Darcy came up with a way to maybe make a vehicle that would work. And she says, well, I know an aerospace engineer. That's it. That's it. And then in the next episode, she says, we're going to meet my guy in an hour. That's it. Marvel never hyped up the engineer. We did. I did. You did. We're the ones who hyped it up. They didn't do it. They dropped 2 lines, and that was it. And so really, at the end of the day, we're the ones who hyped it up. Marvel didn't. But did Kevin Feige know what he was doing? Did Feige and his director and his showrunner and his writers, did they know what they were doing? Oh, I think they did. I think you're right about that, man. I think they did. All right, next up. Ryan Holman writes, oh, Hayward, what a classic mistake, messing with forces you don't understand. I've been saying this, man. I've been saying this. It's like, oh, yeah, let's recreate this super advanced android kill machine. Yeah, that can't possibly go wrong. You don't understand. Your shadiness will come back to bite you when White Vision kills you. Again, I agree. And I don't even, I don't even think he's a bad guy. I really think he feels the need to get this faux vision, this White Vision up and operational, because he doesn't see any other way that they can stop Wanda. And he sees Wanda as a threat. Wanda's imprisoned this town, and guys, let's not lose sight of that. Wanda, despite it coming from a place of pain and grief and sorrow, she took an entire town hostage and captive and has held them against their will. And you think they want to be in there? Remember, Vision woke up his co-worker who was like, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. And by the way, he was talking about Wanda. And then we sees that one woman just kind of moving, like holding up a thing and moving. She had tears coming out of her eyes. That's Wanda doing that. And that's what Hayward sees an entire town held captive and hostage. And he's getting desperate. And so again, big dick, but I don't think it's going to turn out that he's the villain. We will find out. We will find out. All right. Let's see here. Spencer writes, so now we know that actor that Bettany really admired and always wanted to work with was himself. Damn him and British humor. He got us all. Hey, listen, we still got an episode to go. We still got an episode to go. We could still have some big cameo at the end. It may not be Mephisto or Nightmare. It could be a totally different kind of character, but we could still very much get that. Don't count that out yet. I'm not saying it's a definite, but don't count it out yet. But yeah, man, it did kind of look like Paul Bettany was talking about himself. I've always wanted to work with this actor talking about himself. Now he gets to play opposite himself. Okay. That was Spencer. Next up, Cam K. And Cam K writes, so, is Agatha like a prodigy witch? Looks like it. And does this mean Wanda was like already a witch and then got extra power from the Mind Stone? Was it destiny? Listen, I don't know for sure, because once again, the show doesn't actually say that. Agatha theorizes that. But it is kind of what's being implied. So I don't know if that's a sure thing, but Cam, I am with you. It does seem like that's what they're implying, that she is born a witch. And she had latent magical powers, and the Mind Stone just kind of chose her. I mean, that's what it'll look like at any rate. We'll see how far they're going to go with that. Right, next up, Ryland Holman writes, also reveal that Hayward lied about Wanda stealing. Yeah, see, that is the most shady thing he's done so far. Like, why? I don't know yet. What was his motivation for that? We'll find out moving forward. Skywalker 501st writes, happy birthday, John. Thank you, my friend. Did you notice that Agatha said she possessed Pietro? Does that maybe imply that he could be the Fox Quicksilver? No, I personally think the discussion's over. That is not the Fox Quicksilver. She never said any, and she was showing off. If she went through the like, I'm sorry, it was easier to go into another dimension and pull a completely different looking Peter from a different dimension into this dimension and then control him. That was harder than going and getting Pietro's body from somewhere else. Like she literally said, it was out of the question because his body's in another country. So it was easier to rip open a multiverse, go into another dimension, pull out a version of Peter from that dimension, pull him in here, which what would be the point of that? Because Wanda didn't recognize him anyway. I personally think this discussion's over. Pietro did show up. Pietro did show up in the post-credit scene of the last episode. Snooper's going to snoop. Now, that doesn't mean he is Pietro from the Fox X-Men universe. But I'm sitting here saying that's it. The discussion's closed. This is clearly not the Pietro from the other universe. Done. But he did pop up in the post-credit of the last. So we're not done with him. Whoever that is, whoever and whatever that is that Evan Peters is playing, is clearly going to be in the final episode. And since he's going to be in the final episode, I can sit here all day and say, it's clear can we put this to rest now? He is not the Fox X-Men. I can say that all I want. But as long as we know he's still popping up in one more episode, that means there's still a possibility they can say he was, right? So we'll see. We'll see. All right, next up. Cam K writes, for not being a villain, Agatha has some dark methods of helping Wanda. We don't know she's not a villain. Look, we just saw her kill her own mother. We just watched her kill her own mother, and she didn't seem to care that much about it. So I'm not willing to say she wasn't a villain. I'm not definitively saying she is, but I'm not willing to say she's not a villain. All right, Black Rice 19 writes, that was the best episode so far. I actually absolutely agree with you, Black Rice. All the emotion and callbacks to the MCU. I feel like Wanda is one of the most developed MCU characters now, and I completely agree. There's so much. There's something about tragedy with the characters we love. There is something so relatable with pain and tragedy in these characters that we love, and they have orchestrated this beautifully. And Black Rice, I'm telling you, the feels in this episode were deep, man. The feels were deep. Nick C. writes, all I can say is, wow, John. This episode really highlighted how much Wanda has been through and had me very emotional. This show has been amazing. Nick, amen, brother. You are preaching to the choir. I am stunned what they have been able to pull off with this show. This show is so unlike any other MCU property they have ever done. It is so wildly different than anything they've ever done, and they've done it with excellence. And I am very impressed and very grateful because, we really needed this. I think we as a fan community just needed a show like this right now. And I think it's great that we've gotten it. All right. Suthius writes, where did Monica go? Pietro has her captive? Maybe. Listen, this episode clearly was not focusing on Monica. This episode was meant to focus on Wanda and Agatha. And we needed too much to see there. We'll see Monica again in the next episode. Maybe Evan Peters has her captive. Maybe Evan Peters is teamed up with her. There's a lot of unanswered questions still. We still have an episode to go. I'm thinking the next episode's probably going to be about an hour long. Probably about an hour long. It's not going to be like I saw some people writing, oh, the final episode is going to be 2 hours long. No, it's not. I'm telling you right now, it's not. Maybe if we're lucky, it'll be an hour long, and maybe we'll get some answers there. All right. Next up, Darth Grant writes, sad that Wanda may have to kill him again. Yep. There is just too much to go over. There's just too much to go over in this episode. I also have an issue with how Marvel. Okay, there we go. Guys, if you're going to write in two-parters, be ready. Write it out in a notepad first so you can write them in very quickly so I don't have to scroll through everything to find them. All right. I also have an issue with how Marvel has been using the stones. They're crossing over inherent qualities other stones should have with each other. It makes more sense for Wanda's powers to increase after coming in contact with the Power Stone, worst, the Reality Stone. I don't think, listen, that comes from a notion that we have a fundamental understanding of how the Infinity Stones work. And the reality is we don't. We do not have a fundamental understanding of how the Infinity Stones work. What we do know is that all of them are incredibly powerful, but nothing in the MCU has ever suggested each of them can only do one thing. There's clearly one thing that each of them is known for, power, reality, mind, soul, time, things like that. But that doesn't at all imply that it is the only thing that it can do. So since we don't actually have a fundamental understanding of how the Infinity Stones work, I don't think we can draw conclusions that Marvel is or is not using them properly. That's just a little thing I want to throw out there, Darth. Only one little thing I want to throw out there. Rylan Holman writes, I really enjoyed the scene between Wanda and Vision watching TV and talking. So emotional and powerful. These two are great with chemistry and roles. I'll tell you what, that moment when she's still in color and she looks at Vision and we see Vision in black and white, and then the camera turns back around and she's there in her 1950s thing with the smile on her face, and she has fully embraced the fantasy. She's fully embraced it. That was heartbreaking and beautiful. Like, she's happy, but her happiness, we know, is artificial and it's fake and it's only a coping mechanism. So even though we are seeing her with this big smile on her face and she's so happy, you and I know what we're actually looking at is something tragic and sad. And there was something so powerful about that, man. All right, next up, Daniel Davidson writes, and he tipped in like $19. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Happy birthday, John. Thank you, Daniel. Can't thank you enough for all of these live streams you've done for WandaVision. Oh, dude, no, thank you for being here and letting me do it. I mean, I've been having a ball with, listen, I am not saying WandaVision is a top 5 greatest show for me of all time or anything, but it's just the type of show that is so fun just to talk about. I just, whether it's the pregame shows or these spoiler discussions afterwards, these are just fun to talk about. Like, I cannot get enough. I'm rewatching episodes. I never rewatch episodes. Like, even Mandalorian, which I love, I would watch it the night before and then we would talk about the next day. But what I've been doing with WandaVision is I stay up to midnight to watch it, and then I watch it again the next day before we even do the spoiler discussion, just because I want to watch it again. It's so much fun to talk about. So thank you for that, Daniel. I appreciate that, man. All right, Cam K writes, so there's no way this Ralph situation is nothing. He must be the actor Paul was talking about. Maybe yes, maybe no. He could be the rabbit. Could be the rabbit, right? She seems pretty friendly with the rabbit. Fed it a bird. Everybody knows that when you love someone, you feed them birds. So it could be, yeah. So maybe that's the big cameo. Maybe whoever this Ralph is, because I agree with you. Like with the engineer, you know how I was just saying, Marvel, like WandaVision never hyped up the engineer. We did, right? We did. They did hype up Ralph. All right. You can't let them off the hook for that. WandaVision has hyped up Ralph over and over again. So you may be right. I mean, they might not bring Ralph in at all, but I think they will, and I think that might be our big cameo. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll find out. All right. Cam also writes, happy birthday, John. Just wanted to use this chat to thank you for all you do. Thank you so much, Cam. I appreciate that very much. And yeah, like somebody was saying to me, John, like, you don't have to do your show today. It's your birthday. And I'm like, you don't understand. I love WandaVision and I love talking about WandaVision. So there, other than spending time with my wife, who is working right now anyway, there's nothing I'd rather do on my birthday right now than sit down and talk with the other fans about how, like that episode last night. It's been great. So thank you for that, Cam. All right, next up, Suthius writes, why/how did Wanda's hex still linger on that drone? Residual power. That's the only thing I can think of. Like, she hit it with so much power, the power was just residual on it. That's my guess. Nick C. writes, Agatha mentions Wanda has the ability to create life. Sounds like this alternate reality might lead to a multiverse issue in the long run. Maybe yes, maybe no. What's funny is, in this WandaVision thing, they've never once mentioned multiverse. Like, everybody, when it comes to WandaVision, everybody's always talking about, oh, WandaVision is going to do this with multiverse, and WandaVision is going to do that with multiverse, and this multiverse, and that multiverse, and all this kind of multiverse stuff, and everything. And yet, here we are. We've only got one episode left, and they've never once mentioned multiverse, like, at all. So, I don't know that they are going to bring multiverse into this at all. Multiverse stuff might have to wait till Spider-Man 3 or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, maybe. But again, we still have one episode to go, man. We still have one episode to go. All right. Nick C. also writes, last thought, what's up with Hayward? Really seemed like he was pushing Wanda into the idea of creating her dream world. Guy faked the vid of her too. Here's the thing. Yeah, it was really shady that he faked her stealing Vision's body. That was shady. But how on earth would Hayward know, oh, if I let her see Vision, she will leave here, go to Westview, and create a 1950s sitcom world, and she'll hold all the citizens hostage. I don't think he wanted her to do that, and I seriously think he's trying to stop her. I honestly do. I know everybody's still hell-bent that at the end of the day, Hayward's the big bad, and I am still on the train, and I might be proven wrong. We've had theories that I've been proven right, theories I've been proven wrong. This might be one of the ones that I'm proven wrong. But I am still hanging on, like I've said from the beginning. I don't think Hayward's a bad guy. I just think he's a dick. He's a good guy who happens to be a dick. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. All right, next up. Benjamin GL writes, sends in a $20 chat. Thank you, Benjamin. Writes, okay, Agatha may be an anti-hero, guys. Might. And Vision is back. I called it. John, you said you would remember in posting the clip on a Patreon group. Sorry, when life gives you a chance to gloat, you just have to take it. But Vision isn't back. I mean, they made a robot out of his body, but Vision's not there. Like when Wanda was over and she's, I can't feel, he's gone. Vision's gone. He ain't there. That isn't Vision. That is something else. It's not Vision. Now, that being said, though, I did say that I don't think they'll put that Vision back together and have Vision fight Vision. They already did that in Logan. Well, clearly I was wrong about that. So I don't know. We'll see how this all kind of evolves and where they go. But it is really interesting. I gotta say, seeing White Vision was, I mean, my jaw dropped open. My jaw dropped open seeing White Vision. It was a pretty powerful sight, man. It was a pretty powerful sight. So let's see where they go from here. All right. Next up. Oh boy, I didn't even notice that Darth Grant's, when he writes the Stone things, that he like tipped in $50. Dude, thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, man. I really appreciate that. Happy birthday to me. No, thank you, man. Seriously, very, very much. All right, next up. Jose Miez writes, I think that Hayward is Ultron / Grim Reaper. He evil. You might turn out to be right. I still think he's just a good guy who's a dick and goes about the wrong way, but we'll find out. Daniel Weissy writes, now Hollywood is whitewashing Vision. I like that. Well said. Levi R writes, I think Agnes is working with Dormammu. Something about purple when she casts spells. I'm guessing she's drawing her power from the dark dimension and the book she's trying to bring him into our dimension. I think we're way beyond that. We've got one episode left. I really do. I think we're way beyond that at this point. I think everybody's still waiting for the big bad guy to show up. I don't think there is a big bad guy showing up. We got one episode left. I think they have two problems now. Wanda has to deal with three problems, actually. Wanda and Monica and Jimmy have three problems to deal with. One is Sword. 2 is Agatha, and 3 is White Vision. They have to deal with all three of these obstacles, all three of these problems in one episode. I just don't see them now also on top of all of that in one 50-minute episode. Let's say we're lucky and we get 50 minutes. In one 50-minute episode that they're going to deal with Sword, they're going to deal with Agatha, they're going to deal with White Vision, and lo and behold, for one 5-minute appearance, here comes Mephisto. I'm Satan, everybody. Look at me. And then they blast him with one thing and he's gone. Poof. I think we're past that now. I don't think there's another big bad coming. Maybe there is. They can shock us, but I don't think there's another big bad coming. We'll find out. All right. Not to mention that fake Pietro might be a problem too. He may be a problem. I don't think so, but he might be. All right. Next up. Daniel Davison writes, does this mean no more Nightmare or Mephisto? It seemed like they confirmed that it's all Wanda. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm kind of on that boat right now. I think right now we've got one episode left. I'm thinking if we're lucky, we have 50 minutes left. If we're lucky. Last night was like 35 minutes or something. If we're lucky, I think we got about 50 minutes left, not including post-credits. Or credits. Like last night, there was like 7 damn minutes of credits. Took up all the time. Anyway, and they've got to resolve the Sword issue. They got to resolve the Hayward issue. They got to resolve the Agatha issue. They got to resolve the White Vision issue. All of that, and then still end us up with wherever Wanda's going to be at the end of it. I think if we were getting a big bad guy, you got to listen. I think in a movie, your villain has got to be revealed before the third act starts. And we're way beyond that. We're literally in the last ninth of the show. So I anything's possible, Daniel. Anything is possible, but I don't think we're getting another big baddie. I think we're past that. But we'll find out. All right, Rylan Holman writes, after this episode, I think the Mephisto/Nightmare thing isn't happening. That's what we were just talking about. I think Agatha is it. I may be wrong, but I feel they would have hinted it. Yeah, I mean, we would have needed some more solid things about that in episode 6. Like once we get into the third act of this thing, we would have needed some more. I think we would have needed to have met Mephisto or Nightmare or whoever else. I mean, probably by episode 7. But it's not, so I think that's kind of where we're at right now. All right, Cam K writes, I'm thinking we may get some negative views on superheroes from the general public in the MCU. Chronologically, Wanda's going to be put in a bad light. Then Mysterio made Spider-Man look bad too. I mean, it's true. This is a bad time for the superheroes, right? But by the way, maybe the general public don't find out about the Wanda stuff. Maybe. Because there's no mention of crazy Wanda in Spider-Man Far From Home. So maybe they were able to keep that under wraps. But yeah, then the Spider-Man thing, you're right, Cam. I mean, that might become one of the big issues in the MCU moving forward. Maybe like considering the snap and then the Wanda thing and Spider-Man thing, the Sokovian Accords, maybe just the public starts mistrusting superheroes as a whole. Maybe that is somewhere they're going. Nick C writes, I think that moment Kevin Feige told us we would get You Are the Scarlet Witch gave me chills. Also, that scene where she got her powers, amazing. That was a beautiful scene. As the blue part bursts away and she's just there, one-on-one, engaging with the Infinity Stone. She sees that vision, whether it's a future vision of herself or a past Scarlet Witch, whatever. That was a powerful scene, Nick. It was a really powerful scene. Jesse Keller writes, I think Evan Peters was meta-casting now, and I'm much happier if that's the case. I never wanted the old new X-Men for MCU anyway. Recast. Oh, I agree. I mean, I've thought that the whole time, that this is a misdirect. The casting of Evan Peters was a stroke of brilliance by Kevin Feige and his team at Marvel as a massive meta misdirect. And I still believe. Now, again, I say that, but there is still one more episode to go, and we know we know Evan Peters will be in the last episode, so maybe they pull a fast one, and it is the X-Men universe, Peter. That's a possibility, but I've been saying the whole time he's not, and so we'll find out. We only got one more episode to go, and then we'll find out. All right, Phanimator writes, the actor Paul Bettany has always wanted to work with all his life is himself as White Vision. That was his dream. Someday, Paul Bettany thought, I'm such a good actor that someday I can only dream of being able to work with an actor as gifted as me. That's him. I don't know. There could be somebody else, though. All right, Benjamin GL writes, tips in like $50. Thank you, Benjamin. Appreciate that, man. Also, last week I said about 90% of my predictions were true, and you said everyone on the internet says that. How convenient. Fair point. I almost wrote a huge post summarizing what I thought would happen on the Patreon Facebook group, but I was lazy. Well, I mean, here's the problem, Benjamin. And this is something I come across all the time. You see, myself and people like me, every guess, every prediction, every theory that I have is publicly documented, right? It's publicly documented. It's here online. There it is. So when I said 3 years ago that I think Aquaman will be a big success, but I don't think it's going to make $800 million. I think it'll make money, but I don't think it'll make $800 million. And I certainly don't think it'll make $1 billion. Now, that's one thing I said in a show where every day I'm asked to give my opinion on literally anywhere between 30 to 100 different issues and topics every day. But that's the thing. My stance that I thought Aquaman will be successful, but it's not going to make $800 million, and it's certainly not going to make $1 billion. Well, guess what? It did make $1 billion. It did. And that's there on the record. And it is sometimes frustrating, certainly it is, for somebody like me and other people who do what I do, when still 3 years later, I'll still have people saying, well, yeah, aren't you the same guy who said you didn't think Aquaman was going to make $1 billion? I mean, true. Yes, I did, because every guess, projection, analysis, everything I do is part of public record because I do it online. So it's there. There's a record of it. I mean, they ignore the 400 other things I was right about, but yes, the things I was wrong about are the ones that stand out most. And I'd be honest, the things we get wrong are the ones that stand out the most, right? So of course they are. But the thing is, it is also entertaining to me how many people, talk about that, but they have the bravery to say that because their stuff is not on public record. So see, here's the thing, Benjamin. It would have been folly anyway for you to go and write a post after the fact, because I can go and write a post right now that says, I predicted that Agatha killed her mother. And I can say that after the fact. The thing is, you got to have it on record before the fact. And the gift and the curse of being somebody like me that does all this on public record is that the things I was right about and the things I was wrong about are all there on public record all the time. And it's sometimes easy for other people because their predictions and everything aren't on public record. So they can just come along later and say, oh, yeah, I knew that one all along. And yeah, okay, sure. So what you got to do, Benjamin, is you need to start, because now you're in this position, because if you really did have 90% of your theories come true, you can't prove it, right? And obviously people like me are going to be skeptical of that. So what you need to do, and this is what I think all film fans should do anyway, just because it's fun, start a blog. Like seriously, start a blog. It's really fun. Start your own blog of your theories and things like that, and then put it on public record before it happens so you can point back to it and say, there it is. There's a timestamp. That's when I said it. And not just so you can later say, look at what I was right about, but it's just a fun exercise, I think, as a fan. It's a fun exercise to put all that down and put it out into the fan community so people can engage with it too. It's just a fun thing to do. So I would encourage you, Benjamin, that if you haven't done so already, start a blog. Not something you have to work on an hour every day. Not even something you have to post to every day. But like maybe once or twice or 3 times a week, especially now that we've got like, say, Falcon and Winter Soldier coming. Start a blog where you can keep a record of your predictions and things like that. And it's fun to look back on what you got right and what you got wrong. It's a really fun exercise. I would encourage you to do it. All right. Thanks a lot for writing that in, man. I appreciate it. Okay. Next up. Lucky Dragon writes, 1 of 2. All Wanda's life, TV has been an escape and a chance to connect to others through the shared experiences of watching those stories. Absolutely, Lucky, 100%. That is what WandaVision has been for all of us. Great analogy. At a time when we desperately needed. Oh, Lucky, you are so right about that. This show has been for us what television has been for Wanda. I mean, we have so much crap. I mean, between obviously a global pandemic, the political divides, all the nonsense that goes on, we really needed a show. Like we really needed Mandalorian when it came, and we really needed WandaVision when it came. And we got some more big things coming too. We got the Zack Snyder Justice League that people are excited to watch. We got Kong versus Godzilla. We got Mortal Kombat. We got a lot of things on the horizon. But yeah, we really needed WandaVision when we got it. I think that's a great observation. All right, Rylan writes, I think this episode set up a way for them to retcon Wanda and say that she always had the powers. Yep. Hint at X gene? No. Also, think they could still bring Magneto in and say the parents we saw were adoptive. No, not anymore. There was a time a few weeks ago where I was like, they're not bringing in X-Men. But there could be a chance that Magneto shows up. Completely contradictory statements. They're not bringing in X-Men, but they could bring in Magneto. John, you realize those are two completely contradictory statements. Yup, I've known that the whole time. I can't quantify it. I can't justify it. It absolutely are two conflicting statements. Guilty as charged. But I think they very specifically are saying she is a witch. From a line of witches. That she's not a mutant. She's never been a mutant. She is not now a mutant. She is, according to what's being implied in the show, a witch, just like many, many witches before her. And so I think that one's out. And I think at this point, Magneto's written off the table. But listen, there's still no denying. If we get into episode 9, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? If we get into episode 9 and the camera turns around and you just hear this voice, let me talk to my daughter. And they turn around and Ian McKellen is standing there in some red cape. Are you kidding me? What will happen to the internet? Like, you think Disney Plus crashing when a new episode of WandaVision goes out? Forget it. It's the world is going offline, man. The world is going offline. There may be rolling blackouts. Power may go off in your house because everybody will be jumping on Twitter or Facebook or TikTok or whatever to go, ah! If that, oh my God, can you imagine that? It would be nuts. And now look, no, I don't think that's happening. Oh, but if it did, oh my God, if they did, it would make the world explode. Make the world, the internet would just go pop, gone. Can't handle that kind of bandwidth, man. So I don't know. We'll see. But no, I don't think there was any hint that she has the X gene. If anything, it moved us even further away from the notion that she's not a mutant. She's a witch. I didn't think she was a witch either, but turns out she's a witch. At least that's what they seem to be playing. We'll see. Lots still to cover in episode 9. Let's see where things are at after that. All right, the CTB channel writes, so Bettany's dream collab is with himself. That's about as evil as Agatha killing Sparky. LOL. Again, maybe that was the joke, but there is still one more episode to go, CTB. And listen, this rabbit, what's going on with this rabbit? What's going on with Ralph? Still questions being answered. There is still open. There are still possibilities here of that big cameo, and we'll see where that ends up at. Benjamin GL writes, why do you think original Pietro actor hasn't showed up? I feel like they missed some really good opportunities to use him in the last 2 episodes. Was he busy, or did they really not want him back? It's not in their story. It's not in their story. You don't write story for the sake of the actor. Their story didn't need Aaron Taylor Johnson. It's just that simple. They didn't need Aaron Taylor Johnson. And Kevin Feige recently did an interview where they said they always knew it was going to be a recast. They wanted the Peter that shows up at the door to not be one that Wanda recognized. They wanted that specifically. And so you don't change it just so you can put in an actor. That's how you end up with bad storytelling. The story comes first, and then you get the actors you need to fill that story. So, hey, listen, when they showed that scene from Ultron previously on WandaVision, and they showed that scene from Ultron showing us Aaron Taylor Johnson, I thought, hey man, we could actually see Aaron Taylor Johnson in this show. But they didn't need to show him. And I'm not shocked that they didn't. I mean, it would have been interesting if it did, but that's not what their story was. So I'm good with it. All right, next up. Darth Grant writes, Wanda really needs to learn to master her powers. It was embarrassing how Agatha took her to school. I think Strange has to show up. Wanda has raw power, but only a seasoned veteran can take Agatha. Maybe Wanda may be able to take her, but remember, she was caught in that protection spell. She was caught in those runes. And since she is a witch and not a mutant, she is susceptible to the rules of the protection spell. So that's why Agatha was able to school her, because she couldn't use her powers in there. While she was trapped in there, she couldn't use her powers. Now, she's outside of that room now, on the street where Agatha's got her kids, and you see her powering up her hands, but Agatha's got her kids. So she may be able to take Agatha herself. But that may open the door for Doctor Strange to show up. I'm still doubtful that he does, but it's certainly a possibility that he may show up there. So we'll find out. But Wanda has just so much, like even Agatha is like in awe of the raw power that Wanda has. Even calling her like, you have no idea how dangerous you are. I think Wanda can take Agatha, and I think Agatha knows it. Unless she's got Wanda trapped in those runes and in that hex, I think Agatha knows she's at risk. Why do you think she's got Wanda's kids by the necks? Because if she doesn't have them by the necks, Wanda could just step out there and slap her out. So I don't know. We'll see, though. We will see. All right. Let's see. Leftover Lobster. I love that username. Tips in $20. Thank you, Leftover Lobster. Hey, John. Holy crap, you called it. Dick Van Dyke was in the episode. But yeah, it seems that the name, the Scarlet Witch, is supposed to be from some kind of witch prophecy. Is Wanda the witch, the witch chosen one? Kind of. That does kind of seem to be the angle they've taken on this. She's basically the Anakin Skywalker of witches, right? The question is, like Anakin, will she become the Darth Vader of that universe? Like Anakin was destined to become the Darth Vader of the Star Wars universe. Maybe yes, maybe no. But man, so for those of you who don't know what Leftover Lobster's talking about, so on the show the other day, I said, damn it, I want the big cameo to be Dick Van Dyke coming out and doing a song and dance. I'm the devil. And we didn't get that, but we did get a lot of Dick Van Dyke in this episode. It was very pleased to see that, Leftover Lobster. I was very pleased to see that. Let's see. Daniel Davidson writes, if the engineer isn't John Campea, I'm done with Marvel. I can neither confirm nor deny that my character from The Incredible Hulk may or may not be the engineer that will pop up later. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I don't want to spoil it. All right, next up, The Wakandan Forever writes, I always thought my life was a comedy. It's not. It's a tragedy. Wow. Nobody gets out alive. Okay, Disney, so much for happily ever after, huh? Yeah, listen, I have wanted from the beginning for Marvel to do something really bold and go Shakespearean tragedy. This show has been so unique and so different that to go a true Shakespearean tragedy kind of end would just be perfect with that. Now, if they don't, that's fine. They can come up with a great way to have more of a stereotypical comic book happily ever after kind of ending. They can do that, and I'm sure it'll be great. But considering just how unique and original this whole show has been, to really go that extra mile and have a really different kind of comic book ending with a true Shakespearean kind of tragedy, I think would be very special. All right, we'll see. Benjamin GL writes, I was really hoping / expecting them to tie Agatha's powers to Doctor Strange, so much so I was kind of surprised that the Ancient One wasn't in the opening scene. Oh, that's true too. Wasn't in the opening scene, but I'm interested with where they are going. I mean, yeah, but look, this is the thing though, and this has always been the bane for me about shared cinematic universes. Don't get me wrong. I love the MCU. I love the DCU. I love shared cinematic universes. It's great. But I have also always kind of been frustrated that the shared cinematic universe mentality has taken over everything. That the days of awesome standalone movies with the superhero genre seem to be gone. And I hate the idea that it has to be one or the other and not both and. That's why I love the idea of the Joker movie so much. It's like, finally, a comic book based movie that is not tied into a connected, shared cinematic universe. Finally. You know what else was its own isolated thing? Christopher Nolan's Batman films. They weren't tied into some bigger cinematic universe. It was Batman and Batman alone. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies weren't tied into some great big shared cinematic universe. Spider-Man was unique in the universe. One of the banes of shared cinematic universe thing is everybody always expects, why didn't Thor come? Why didn't Captain America show up? Where was Storm? Why isn't Wolverine there? Why didn't we lose the sense of the story at the expense of the cameo or the appearance or the also starring. And we lose the uniqueness and the focus on the individual story of these individual characters, and everything always gets lost in the sense of, when are the 18 other Marvel superheroes showing up? And for me, I kind of lament that a bit. Like, I love the shared cinematic universe, but the problem with shared cinematic universe is there's no such thing as truly standalone, good, isolated stories anymore. Everything's always seen through the light of, when are the X-Men coming in? When's Mephisto showing up? Where's Doctor Strange? Is Spider-Man going to come swing in? I don't know. And I kind of miss the idea that we can have both and. Shared cinematic universe, great standalone stories, and the ability for us as fans just to be able to watch a story and just be focused on these characters and this story and what's happening right now on screen, and not feeling a sense of profound disappointment when Iron Man doesn't show up. And I think we do that to ourselves as fans. I'm going off on an entirely different, non-connected manifesto here. But yeah. But again, at the same time, I see where you're going. But I lament that we as fans, and I'm included in this too, brother, I'm included in this too, that we have lost the ability to just truly appreciate the story of the characters that are right in front of us. Because we're always thinking about the 85 other characters who might swing in at any second. You know what I mean? And I do it too. But there's clearly a connection, Benjamin. There's clearly some kind of connection, because this is going to tie into the Doctor Strange movie. So, you never know. And again, we've got one more episode to go. Let's see how they tie that in. All right, next up. Connie Sang writes, if Wanda created Vision through her grief/chaos magic, how did Hayward track the decay signature of vibranium of Vision in episode 6? Did Wanda create vibranium? I knew Hayward was not to be trusted. That's really the only explanation, I think, Connie. I think you're right. I can't think of another explanation other than Wanda created this thing we are calling Vision. But in making him, he's made of vibranium. They're tracking his vibranium signature. So that's the only thing I got. I think you are completely right about that. That seems to be the only explanation. Now, I don't know if you guys possibly have other explanations for that. But when Wanda manifested Vision, at least inside the hex, this could be something. It could be nothing, but it could be something. Perhaps inside the hex, it completely looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. That inside the hex, it appears and comes across completely as vibranium. But outside the hex, maybe it's not. Maybe he just he can't exist outside that hex. And what was vibranium inside the hex becomes ash and just like flakes apart and falls apart and has to go back inside for it to be what it is inside the hex. Maybe. That's a possibility. That might also be why, if Pietro is not actually Quicksilver, that could be why inside the hex, Agatha was able to make it look like he had super speed. Why they're able to make a dog. They were able to hold a dog and pet the dog. If Sparky's real. I don't think Sparky's real. So I don't know. It does bring up, though, Connie, a lot of questions about that. But I think right now, my only operating theory for now is that inside the Hex, it's vibranium inside the fantasy world. But the moment he steps out, he can't exist there. And what was vibranium flakes apart and has to go back into the text to be what it was inside. Maybe that may not be true at all. That may not be true at all. But it is my best guess right now. And I'm going to be really interested, Connie, to see how they address that as we get into the next episode. All right, Sam Fisher writes, I have a feeling there's no other entity, no Mephisto, no Dormammu, no Nightmare, just Wanda and her powers and Agatha trying to figure out how she did it. I mean, listen, that's what I was saying from day one. Now, I started to wonder, like that I'm telling you guys, nothing has thrown me more for a loop in WandaVision than that damn Yo Magic commercial. Because you remember, after that Yo Magic commercial, I said, now listen, I still don't think Mephisto's there. I still don't think Nightmare's there, but I think it's an even greater possibility now than I did before. Like I always knew Mephisto and Nightmare were possible, but not, I thought very unlikely. But after that Yo Magic commercial, that you guys have heard me talk about it a lot. That threw me for a loop. I'm like, that shark is something. Is that shark representing Mephisto? Is that shark representing Nightmare? I said, I'm still not there. I still do not believe we're going to get Nightmare or Mephisto, but I'm telling you, I think it's even more possible now than I did before. And by the way, we still have one more episode to go. It ain't ruled out. It is very late in the game for a Mephisto or a Nightmare or anything like that to show up. Very, very late in the game. So I really don't think they will. But we would be foolish not to understand that it is still possible. It's still possible. Highly unlikely, but possible. All right, Timothy Platt writes, after these last two episodes, I really hope they stick the landing with the finale. So far, WandaVision has been on a bell curve for me. Dude, listen, I'm telling you, sticking the landing is the hardest thing to do in movies, television, any kind of storytelling. It ain't that hard to come up with a really cool concept. It's difficult to execute it well, and it's difficult to carry it out, but it's sticking the landing that is so hard. So let's see how they do, Timothy. Duck Dodgers, 24th and half century writes, what if Marvel will have Wanda sacrifice herself to recreate all 6 Infinity Stones, or otherwise chaos and multiverse take over reality? Well, I've seen nothing to indicate the other Infinity Stones have anything to do with the show. We only have probably 45 to 50 minutes left of storytelling to do. And we know that Wanda is going to be in Doctor Strange 2. So all that is to say, while Duck Dodgers, that may be possible. I would think it's pretty unlikely. That seems like a lot to introduce and resolve with everything else they need to resolve in 45 minutes. For a concept that hasn't even been remotely touched upon in the first 8 episodes, and the fact that we got to get Wanda later on, it seems unlikely. But again, I'm not going to rule it out. I'm just going to say I think it's unlikely right now. Good theory, though. Jesse Price writes, hey, John, and after this episode is great, what do you think? Let me read it again. Hey, John, and after this episode is great, what do you guys think? Thanks. I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking, Jesse. I think what you're just saying is the episode is great. What do I think? What do I think? It was awesome. I think it was awesome. I mean, seriously, what they did on the emotional level, the humanizing of everything in here, I thought it was the best episode of WandaVision yet. I completely loved it, and I found myself swearing. I found myself swearing at the TV. I'm just so... I mean, it's so amazing. I just get pissed off. You know, it's kind of like, you guys ever watch one of them? I admit, I'm secure enough in my immense masculinity. I am secure enough in my masculinity to admit, you know what I kind of like watching on TV? I kind of like watching cooking shows. I don't cook. I mean, I do a little cooking. I am Italian, but I don't really cook. Whatever. But I get a kick out of watching cooking shows. And there's this thing called Master Chef Junior. I don't know if any of you guys can relate with this with me, But I'll watch like MasterChef Junior with Ann, right? And they get these like 7-year-old children. 7, 9, 11-year-old children. And they're like cooking soufflés and these amazing looking dishes that on my best day, I would never be able to do. And I just end up swearing at the screen. Fuck you, kid. And your unbelievable stupid talent. Fuck that kid. Fuck that 7-year-old kid. And his kind of savant-like gifts and talents, because I'm just mad. I'm just mad that I would never be able to do anything like that. And it pisses me off that here's some 9-year-old child that is able to do it so brilliantly and so amazingly. And it just really makes me feel very inferior. So as I'm watching WandaVision, and I'm seeing what they're like, we all know they can do the big pow Civil War airport fight scene. We know they can do the big endgame portals fight. We know they can do all that and do it brilliantly. And then we come into a show like WandaVision and they're like, you want to see how good we are? How about this? How about we do an entire show and we don't have a single fight? Now, one is probably coming in episode 9, but up till now, we've come up to the second last episode, 8 episodes. We haven't had, this is a Marvel show, we haven't had a single action sequence.
No, comic book movies, all they are is the big explosions and the action. They have no substance and blah, 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 blah.
Fuck you, says Kevin Feige. Watch this. And we've had 8 episodes of incredible character-grounded storytelling and not a single action scene. Not a single action scene. And they've got us hanging on every episode of every scene, of every conversation, of every action. They've got us hanging on the edge of our seats. And then Kevin Feige and his team come to this episode with the most humanizing, empathetic, emotional, powerful scenes. And I feel like the way I feel when I watch MasterChef Junior and I see these little children just showing off this incredibly gifted talent. And that's how I feel like yelling. I feel like yelling at my screen and saying, F you, Kevin Feige. F you for being able to do this. This is like basically unfair. It's basically unfair. Anyway, there's that. Okay. Next up. Where are we at? That was Jesse writes. Daniel Davidson writes, where was Monica at the end of the episode? She's outside of Agnes's house in the post-credit scene last episode. No idea. But this episode was not about Monica. They needed to take care of business with Agatha, and we needed that flashback episode and thing, but they're around. They're around. Either her and Evan Peters' character are off strategizing, or maybe Evan Peters' character took her captive. Don't know. We'll find out, though. We will find out. All right, next up, Mark also writes, so the actor that Bettany always wanted to work with was and had incredible chemistry on set with is going to be himself. What an absolute Chad. Listen, again, let's not assume. We do still have another episode to go. That episode's coming. They'll set it up. Don't worry. I still think he's talking about somebody else, but wouldn't it be incredibly meta of him to be talking about himself? That would be fun. All right. Next up, Anthony Ashmask writes, what's up with Senor Scratchy? He whispered and spoke to Agatha, and she fed him a cicada. Far too late for a big bad working behind the curtains reveal now, and we know it was all Wanda. What do you think is happening? Well, I think you just laid it out, Anthony. I think you just laid it out perfectly. It was all Wanda. There is something with the rabbit. I mean, or it could just be, that witches in a lot of storytelling and a lot of mythologies, witches have familiars, right? And that could be what we've got here, that the rabbit is just her familiar. Or it could be somebody in rabbit form. It could be more than that. We'll find out. We still got another episode to go, and we will find out. All right, next up, Benjamin GL writes, sends in another $50 super chat. Thank you, Benjamin, for supporting the channel on that level, man. Seriously. I can't help but feel they're setting up Hayward as a villain, which I find super lazy. It's more interesting if he's just a well-intentioned dick. I hope they're setting up nobody is villain. Everyone is both good and evil, and they're fighting over morals. Well, see, here's where I think they're going. And again, I wouldn't bet money on this. I wouldn't put down serious cash on this. I'm not completely invested or convinced of this. But where I think they're going, where I think they're heading, is that it's exactly what you just said, Benjamin. I think Hayward is a well-intentioned idiot who means well. He thinks he's trying to protect the world. He thinks Wanda is the big threat. And I think he's well-intentioned. Where I think they're going is he just uncorked Pandora's box. Uncorked a box? I was going to say uncorked Pandora's bottle, but Pandora was a box, not a bottle. Sometimes I wake up with the stupid. Okay, so I think he has just unwittingly opened Pandora's box by building this vibranium synthesoid machine. And I think it's not only going to cause problems for Wanda, I think it's going to end up causing problems for everybody, including Sword. And I think at the end of it, that may be the thing they all need to band together to fight against. Now, don't forget, I still think Wanda has got outstanding conflicts right now with Sword. She has a current standing conflict with Agatha, and we've got a coming conflict with this White Vision. That's a lot. I think what's going to happen is, Hayward is going to have a very rude awakening that, oh my God, this thing's turning on us now. And we may see them having to work with Wanda. Maybe they even have to work with Agatha. Maybe Agatha needs to work with them too. I don't know. Maybe it's everybody who needs to team up to fight this White Vision. Because the real Vision had a code. The real Vision had morals and ethics and guiding principles that he tried to live by. This is just a mindless vibranium killing machine. So I don't know. Maybe they're going that way. I'm not sure, Benjamin. Obviously, I'm not clear or 100% sure about that. Not in the least. But I am more convinced, especially after watching that scene with him and Wanda, where he clearly was showing, I felt he was being sincere. I know a lot of people are thinking he was trying to trick Wanda, and maybe he was. My first impression of the scene, though, I felt like he was being sincere. I thought he was showing sincere empathy to Wanda. I feel like when he said, "It's an honor to meet you," I think he was being honest. When he was saying, I feel like you deserve to be able to have a chance to say goodbye, I feel like he was being sincere. Maybe I'm wrong. And maybe we'll find out in the last episode that he was really one of the big bad guys. He was one of the villainous things the whole time. That's possible. But for now, I really do think they're setting up as a well-intentioned guy who is just making mistakes. And maybe he's a bit of a dick. So I don't know. We'll see, Benjamin. We'll see. So like I said, we still got another episode to go. We still got some surprises to come, my friend. All right, next up. Benjamin also writes, I spent more money super chatting for you on WandaVision and Mando than I ever will on Disney Plus, even if I keep it forever. Disney should tap into that. Well, yeah, no, seriously. Don't think I don't recognize that, Benjamin. Thanks, seriously. It is thanks to people like you and all the rest of you guys who come and watch our shows, and you send in these tips to the show, and you send in these questions and theories and stuff like that keeps us going. It's why I'm able to be here and have the gear that I have and use the services that I use and have Robert Meyer Burnett and have Aaron Cummings and have Kimberly Curran and, and Ray and John and all that kind of stuff. It's because of you guys. So seriously, don't think I'm not cognizant of that, Benjamins. And seriously, a very sincere, thank you very much. All right, next up. Preston MM writes, they're doing everything to try and throw us off about Evan Peters as Peter, but they did give us one hint when Agatha said it was a crystalline possession. I would put money on it that this is Peter. Again, there was nothing about it. I had to go she was saying, I couldn't use the real Peter because his body's in a different country. So really? So then it's easier to open up portal to an alternate dimension, reach in there, pull someone out that doesn't look anything like her, Peter, and do it that way? I don't know. Could be. I mean, like I said, I'm pretty convinced that, and as I've been the whole time, that it is not the Peter from the Fox X-Men. But we still have one more episode to go. And Preston, we may find out that you are very well correct. We'll find out. Well, got 1 week to go, guys. Just 1 week to go. All right, Late Paul writes, what is grief? Best line ever in an MCU movie. What is grief if not love persevering? Fucking beautiful line. Wow, I expect action and humor and suspense from the MCU. I did not expect poetry. Shout out to Bettany and Olsen for their acting in that scene too. That scene was so good. Even before they got into that, like even when you saw the scene, I guess from Malcolm in the Middle where the thing collapses on Cranston, he's like, it's funny because of the terrible injuries he suffered. It's like, that line is so good. Like, and even when Vision's explaining, I have never loved someone to lose. I've always been alone. So I can't relate with this idea of grief. And then he says, Wanda, but I imagine it can't be all bad. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, what is grief? If not love persevering? I'm telling you guys, I am not the type of guy when I'm watching an episode of something for the first time or a movie for the first time that I will stop and pause it. I don't do that. Like, unless I got to run and grab a drink or run to the bathroom or something like that. I'm not a guy on my first viewing that stops and pauses. When Paul Bettany says, what is grief but love persevering? If not love persevering, I immediately reach for my remote and I pause that thing. And then I hit the 10 seconds backward button. And then I played it again. And then he said it again. What is grief if not love persevering? And I just started swearing like, F you, Kevin Feige. F you. For writing that and making me feel what I feel in this. You're right, Late Paul. We have come to expect certain great things from the MCU. Not this. Not what is grief if not love persevering. Not falling to her knees in the spot that was supposed to be the home that her and her love could share together as she grew old. Not all of this. That's not what we expect from the MCU, and they were able to deliver it, and it's almost unfair. It is unfair what Feige and his team of showrunners and directors and writers have been able to orchestrate and do. It's phenomenal. It's really phenomenal. All right, next up, Nick C writes, so we saw that Vision is unable to leave from the inside, but with his body being sent in, I wonder if the Vision Wanda created combines with the body. See, I don't know. There's a couple of problems with that, right? Because the first thing that comes to your head, okay, they've got the Vision body functioning. They've got the Vision body functioning. Could Wanda take this fake Vision and merge it in with this Vision body? Well, there's a couple of things. I still don't think Vision, the essence of, first of all, this Vision isn't real. Remember, I think one of the reasons they showed us the scene of her standing over Vision's body and saying, I can't feel you, that was the show telling us Vision is gone. Vision's gone. That white robot is not Vision. The thing inside of the hex isn't Vision. Could she make a new thing? Maybe, but I have a feeling that even that personality of his can't exist outside the hex. But again, the bigger problem is in Spider-Man Far From Home, they acknowledge that Vision is gone. There is no Vision. In Spider-Man Far From Home, 7 months after the events of WandaVision, they're saying in this world there is no Vision. So that becomes a problem. But it is a possibility. It is a possibility because that's one of the things that went through my head as well. All right, Timothy Platt writes, she already knows Agatha was manipulating her, and she's going to snap completely when she finds out Hayward was playing her too. He knew exactly what she was going to do when he tried attacking her. I don't think so. I really don't think so. I don't think he anticipated that Wanda would hex the drone and then decide to pick up the drone and carry it outside of the hex to drop it. Listen, if Hayward knew all of that was going to happen, forget Reed Richards, forget Tony Stark, and forget Shuri. Hayward is the smartest person in the MCU. If Director Hayward, let me address this quickly, just for a second here. Somebody's writing in the live chat and asking, I think it's Alpha Slayer says, did John discuss the new Superman news? Let me just say, this is the WandaVision spoiler discussion. We're not here to talk about other news. However, I will remind everybody that the Superman news is something I told you about 3 months ago. Do you guys remember that? I told you 3 months ago that I had been told by my contact in Warner Brothers that J.J. Abrams is absolutely doing a Superman movie, and that at the time just wasn't sure whether he was going to keep Henry Cavill as Superman or not. I still don't know if they know or not. But remember, I made it the title of the video and everything. I told you guys 3 months ago this is news, so this isn't news to me. But we will talk about that another time, because here today, we are here to talk about WandaVision and WandaVision only. Okay, let's keep going. What were we talking about here? Hold on a second. What were we talking about here? I lost my place. Give me a second. I totally lost myself here for a second. My message screen has frozen up. So give me a moment. My message screen just froze up. I'm going to see if I can get this working again. Give me a second, guys. You know what? As I try to fix this, I'm gonna go to a break screen right now. Hang tight, guys. I will be right back. Okay, guys, we're back. Sorry about that. I was having a trouble getting my message thing to scroll, but I think we appear to have it back up and running, I believe. So yes, we're ready to go. Okay, where do we leave off with? By the way, just a quick yes or no. Everybody's able to see and hear me okay? Just if one or two of you can just pop in a yes, or hopefully yes. If I don't see anything, then I'll assume that means you guys can't see and hear me right now. So hopefully the answer is yes. Okay, yes. Everybody's saying everything's good now. Okay. With his body being sent. Yeah, so anyway, there's that. Then we were talking about Timothy Platt. So about Hayward, again, that's where we were. There are some people who think that Hayward tricked Wanda initially he knew she would go off and create Westview and cause this whole situation. And then some people think that Hayward knew that Wanda would shoot down the drone, and then bring the drone out of the hex, drop it at their feet, and convince them, and then leave it there for them, and then go back in. So yeah, my kind of thought on that is, if Hayward did orchestrate this whole thing, if Hayward tricked Wanda by showing her Vision's body, and then tricked her again by bringing out the drone, if he knew all of that was going to happen, again, to me, that means he is the smartest person in the MCU. So I don't know, but we'll see, man. We'll see how much more deviousness he has in him here. All right. Magic K writes, told you there is another Vision. We're going to see the real Vision fight against the Hex Vision. Yeah. See, the reason I didn't buy into that, like I said, it's possible they could do it, but I didn't think they would. And the reason I didn't think they would, if you guys remember, I said, listen, that would kind of just be setting up the same ending that Logan had. Now, Logan wasn't their movie, so I don't know, but I really didn't think they were going to have a Vision versus Vision like they had Logan versus Logan. But lo and behold, I was wrong. They are. And it's going to be interesting to see how they resolve this one, Magic K. All right, Benjamin GL writes, 2. I don't remember there being a 1. Was there a 1? I see 2. Oh, no, that didn't say 1. It says okay, anyway, let's just see what Benjamin is saying here. Benjamin, I've always thought having live comments and current viewers and other gimmicky stuff would make platforms like Disney Plus more fun. Now I'm convinced. Oh, yeah. Yeah, listen, and they've been trying to have, like, Netflix, Disney Plus, and I think 1 or 2 other streamers have been starting to have like watch party functions. It's not for live stuff yet, but they've been trying to develop things like watch party functions and things like that. And sometimes they've had celebrities from their shows doing live Twitter streams as the show is being shown and all that kind of stuff. Of course, what makes it difficult is that everybody watches the show at a different time, right? So that's what it makes it a little bit difficult. But I think somehow, some way down the line, Benjamin, they'll probably come up with something. I don't know what that'll be, but it'll probably be something like that. Okay, next up. Late Paul writes, when Agatha says, I have a theory, but I need more, literally the fandom every week. It totally is. Except it's instead of us saying I have a theory, it's us saying I have 55 theories. I have 55 theories. 30 of them are about the multiverse. Another 20 of them are about Quicksilver. And 5 of them are about the X-Men showing up. 55 theories. Let's see. But you're right. That is totally us, Late Paul. You are absolutely right. That's totally us. All right. Frostbite 3 writes, we need an Agnes hot toy. Oh, dude, I would be shocked if we don't have an Agatha or Agnes hot toy. I think we'll get 4 or 5 different versions of them. Frostbite also writes, my brother thinks Hayward is Ultron using nanotech to disguise himself as human, and that's why he's obsessed with reviving Vision. Thoughts? I really don't think so. Now, I've said before that I do buy into the idea that we could see Vision in this show. That's only kind of been highlighted or accented even more with the fact that every time WandaVision ends, maybe this is different for you guys, but for me, every time WandaVision ends, the next recommended thing that pops up is Avengers Age of Ultron. Does that happen with you guys as well? Because I know for me, every single time a WandaVision episode ends, full screen Avengers Age of Ultron. And you got a big picture of Ultron on the screen. And that's what it is for me. I don't know if maybe something else, like next up you should watch this, shows up. But yeah, a lot of you guys are saying that's the exact same thing for you guys too. So, like, does that kind of nonchalantly point us that, hey, Ultron's going to show up, kiddies? I mean, I don't know, but it's true. I mean, so Ultron could. We've heard Ultron named by name a couple of times in WandaVision. We've seen clips from Age of Ultron in the previously on WandaVision sort of thing. And we keep seeing Ultron pop up as the next thing we should watch after watching WandaVision. Does that mean we're going to see Ultron in the last episode? No. Should we expect to see Ultron in the final episode? No. Do I still think that's a possibility? Absolutely, I do. I still think that's a chance. But I personally don't think that Hayward is Ultron. I don't think Hayward's Ultron, but that's just me. All right, next up. Ben Rayner writes, great episode. Loved Wanda reactions. Still confused about the questions. Still confused about the questions. Mainly Pietro. So some rando. Also, what was that at the end? I'm not quite sure what you're referring. There were many things at the end, so I'm not quite sure which one you're talking about in a second. But yeah, I think Pietro is a big rando. I think it's going to end up that Pietro is a rando. I mean, there's still a bunch of people that think he's going to be Quicksilver from the Fox universe. And hey, listen, we still got an episode to go. It could be. I really don't think it is, but it could be. I mean, Agatha basically confirming that he's a big rando, that may in and of itself be a misdirection to throw us off the scent that he's actually Pietro from the Fox X-Men universe. Maybe it is. I will still stick on that he's not. Just like I stuck on, I don't think Mephisto is showing up. I don't think Nightmare is showing up. I mean, I acknowledge there were a lot of things that started happening that say, oh man, I mean, the evidence is growing. But I said I stick with they're not showing up, and I will stick with he is not actually Quicksilver. But it doesn't mean he can't be. And it doesn't mean we're not going to have to talk about this again next week, because maybe they'll show that he is. We'll find out, Ben. We'll find out. All right, next up. We've got Benjamin GL who writes, I want a Vision hot toy. So do I, man. I think Rob has a great Vision hot toy. Anyway, I want Vision hot toy. Also, money for Vision hot toy. I really need to stop commenting. Oh, well, it's just fun to love the show, John. Also, Jedi Fallen Order review. Did I not talk about Jedi Fallen Order? I thought I did talk about Jedi Fallen Order. Anyway, maybe I didn't. But yeah, listen, there are several hot toys I want from this. Several. And I am not kidding. I'm not joking. I actually think a Herb hot toy, I would eat that up. The 70s Herb hot toy. Check you on the flip side, Vision. I want that hot toy. I'm not even joking. I want that hot toy. And maybe, maybe White Vision. White Vision would be a pretty good one too. There's several hot toys from this one that I really do think I want. All right, next up. Nikhil Gangar Amani writes, happy birthday, John. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's nice. You just write that and just say happy birthday. Casey McNatt writes, why did Agnes want to know so much of how she created the Hex? What is her main goal here? Well, look, I think as a witch, she saw Wanda do something that a witch shouldn't be able to do. Like, she was just geeking out. I mean, basically, Agnes was geeking out. Like, still people miles away, still under the spell, create all these backstories and blah, magic on autopilot. Like, she's geeking out. Like, that's a type of power she didn't think a witch could do. So she's like, how did you do this? Because I want it. And then at the end, she figures out what Wanda is. She's the Scarlet Witch. She's using chaos magic, which is why some people think it might be connected to the ancient god Cthulhu, or I never know how to pronounce the name of the ancient god. But at any rate, I think she wants that power. But then at the end, she was like, this isn't even about me wanting that power anymore. You're dangerous. She says that to Wanda, you're dangerous. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that later on. All right. Late Paul writes, who was the woman Wanda saw when she was with Loki's scepter? Her future self or someone else? Dude, that to me is the question of the episode. The question of the episode to me is, what was that she saw? Was it a premonition of what she was going to become? Or was it a vision of a Scarlet Witch before her? That to me, or could it have been a vision of Agnes's mother? She had that same kind of thing on her head, right? So I don't know, but that, Late Paul, great minds think alike, my brother, because that is the $1 billion question to me. And I am wondering the exact same thing. I'm going to guess it was a premonition of her future. That's my guess. I'm not putting any money on that. It could very well be a past vision, but I'm going to lean towards premonition of a future self. All right, next up. Preston MM writes, Professor X shows up the next episode to tell Wanda that the Infinity Stone activated her X gene. They then send Charles back through to his universe that ends up killing the mutants and setting up Logan. That is a very specific theory there, Preston M. Listen, obviously I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think if anything, this show has even greater set a distance between the idea that Wanda is a mutant. She's not. And I think that this episode just drives that home even further. This isn't about being a mutant. This isn't about a latent X gene. They clearly show she's a witch. She's not a mutant. She's a witch. And as a witch, because if she was just a mutant and these powers weren't from being a witch, then her being in the hex, or in the middle of the glyphs of that protection spell where it says another witch can't use magic except for the witch that casts the spell, then it wouldn't work on her. Because if that was Logan inside those glyphs, he would still be able to tear her apart with his mutant powers. But it's not. It's a witch. It's not X gene. It's not anything like that. So, but again, we do still have another episode to go. And maybe they'll completely, flip the script on us, man. Maybe they'll completely flip the script. And maybe, Preston, maybe your well laid out theory here may be much closer to the truth than I think right now. We'll find out. We still got one more week to go. All right. KC McNett writes, well, John, all I got to say is episode 9 better be in an hour and a half. Seems like there's a lot of stuff they need to clear up. I agree. I mean, it's not going to be an hour and a half. I think if we're lucky, it'll be 45 to 50 minutes long. But you're right. There's a lot of ground they still need to cover. I mean, forget anything else. Just resolving the 3 standing conflicts. The conflict with Sword, the conflict with Agatha, the conflict with the White Vision. Just those alone. Forget anything else. Getting through that is going to be a good 45, 50 minutes or more, let alone what's happening with Monica, let alone what's happening with the Evan Peters character, let alone any of that stuff. Just solving those 3 conflicts is going to be time consuming. So they better move. They better haul ass in this next episode. Or maybe we will get lucky and it'll be a little bit longer than that. It'll be nice to see. All right. Timothy Platt writes, no lie. The way she spat out the line about Wanda's kids at the end, I thought Agatha was about to tell her they aren't real. I personally, Timothy, my interpretation, and it's just an interpretation, but my interpretation of that thing was that she was basically confirming that her kids aren't real either. Because she said it right in line with the other things that aren't real. She was my children, yeah, your kids. And Vision and this fantasy world he created. Like, she listed her kids with the 2 other things that are artificial that Wanda just created. Was that Agatha's way of kind of signaling to us that the children are in fact artificial? They're not real. They're not going to be able to exist outside of the hex either. I mean, that was my initial interpretation. We'll see once we get a little bit more explanation going into the final episode. All right. Guys, last question I'm going to take here before I take a short break, because we've been going for over 2 hours now. We've been going for over 2 hours. So I'm going to need to refill my drink, give my voice just 3 or 4 minutes of a break. Anthony Ashmask writes, what an emotional episode. Absolutely. I teared up at Vision's note to grow old in. Oh my God, that just like all the feels, man. Absolutely heartbreaking. Elizabeth Olsen was phenomenal. Yes, she was. Especially in the scene when Wanda loses it and creates the hex. Give her more love. Anthony, listen, I'll tell you though, I don't know how much more love we have to give her. I mean, we've all been giving her and Bettany both, and Catherine Hahn. By the way, how great. I'm so grateful for WandaVision because I've been telling you guys for years, Catherine Hahn is a boss. Catherine Hahn is awesome. And I'm so grateful that we've got WandaVision where she can show off just how great she is. But yeah, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, absolutely stellar and spectacular. It has been absolutely watching all of them. It has been absolutely fabulous. Okay, guys. I'm going to take, if you will give me a moment, I'm going to take a couple of minutes here, 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes here. I'm going to probably refill my drink, rest the vocal cords up, probably go use the bathroom myself, give you guys a chance to talk amongst yourselves, talk about your theories, use the bathroom, whatever it is you got to do. But hang tight, guys. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Please stand by. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you for your patience and indulgence as I took a bit of a break there. I'm not going to lie, my throat's getting a little bit sore. I did 5 hours of shows yesterday, and we're a little over 2 hours here today, but I'm okay. I'm okay. It's getting a little bit sore. I think as long as I take care of it, we're going to be all right. Okay, let's move on here. Where are we at? We are at... Where did we go? We left off with, was it Anthony? Yes, it was Anthony that we left off with. Okay, so let's move on. We'll go to Moon 7 Willow, who writes, where we go? Moon 7 Willow writes, when the Mind Stone showed Wanda her ultimate true self, just wow. That the look of this episode was fire, and got that name drop finally. Boo Hayward. Well, and listen, I'm still not totally sure that what we saw was her actually seeing a vision of her true self. I mean, maybe it was a vision of a past Scarlet Witch. Maybe it was a vision of something else. I'm not really sure, but that is possible. It's something that could be going into a little bit moving forward. All right, next up. Sam Edwards writes, Agatha said Wanda being up close and personal with Time Stone makes her more powerful, so implying that being around Vision does. The Mind Stone is the reason for connection and why she can't bring him back. Let me try this again. Agatha said Wanda being up close and personal with the Time Stone makes her more powerful. So implying that being around Vision does. Is Mind Stone the reason for connection and why she can bring him back? I'm not really, I'm not sure about that. And I don't think what they were implying was, at the end of the day, I'm not 100% sure about, first of all, what is the nature? I'm still a little bit unclear about what is the nature of this vision, right? Because clearly this isn't actually Vision, right? This isn't actually Vision. It's something else entirely. It's not Vision. It's something else entirely. So really, once we got an understanding about what is this vision, I think then we'll get a better idea about what role does the stone plays or anything else like that play in it. Until we know that for sure, we just really won't know. Now, listen, guys, sorry to do this, but I am going to have to take another break here because there is something going wrong. I'm having a memory leak on my PC. My PC right now is showing 99% memory usage, which is causing some performance problems. So what I'm going to have to do is reboot my machine. Now, I think I'm going to be able to keep the stream going. I think the stream is going to be able to keep going for now. So if you guys will be patient with me again I'm sorry I apologize. It frustrates me a great deal when there are technical problems, but it looks like the only way to fix this, to solve this memory leak issue is for me to reset the machine. So I'm going to have to reboot my machine. So if you guys will hang tight with me here, I should be able to start the stream back up again in about 5 minutes. Again, my apologies. I'm sorry, guys. It's outside of my control. I'll do what I can, but I will try to get this back up running here in just a few minutes. Hang tight with me, guys. All right, guys, and we are back. You know what? I think it might be time. I bought this new PC a little over a year ago. A real beast of a machine, too. Like, it's a really beastie machine. But lately, I don't know if any of you guys, hey, maybe I'll ask you guys this. There's a few thousand of you watching this right now. If you have an answer to this, you can email me at John. Let me ask you guys for some tech advice. I'm usually pretty good with tech stuff myself, but every once in a while, my machine will all of a sudden go from like using 30% of my memory to like 99% of my memory. And my machine, once it hits 99%, my machine starts to really grind to a halt, and I've got a very beefy machine. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or what they're saying, and somebody's saying, is it Windows 10? Yep, it's Windows 10. So I don't know. Hopefully I don't have to go and get a new, maybe it is time. Maybe I got to get a new rig. I mean, I asked this computer to do a lot. This computer does a lot of heavy lifting. So maybe it's just time for me to get a new machine. But anyway, somebody's saying I need more RAM. I got 64 gigs of RAM. I don't think I need more RAM. I've got plenty of RAM. Anyway, let's keep on going, shall we, guys? We got some time left here. So let's keep on getting to this stuff here. Steve Coonan writes, hey, John, big fan, over under 60%, Spader voices White Vision. Ooh, I haven't even thought about that. I'll go under 60% because I think they'll probably just get Paul Bettany to do the voice too, but ooh, I hadn't even thought about that. That's a really neat idea. Late Paul writes, all those theories about is the fly Mephisto 10 minutes in, rabbit eats the fly. Ever feel like they're toying with this? I love it though. I absolutely feel like they're often toying with us. I often feel like they're often toying with us. I really, really do. Because they'll set up theories and then squash them right against the wall. They totally do that. Anthony Ashmask writes, this is Chaos Magic, Wanda, and that makes you the Scarlet Witch. Chills, literal chills. Oh man, what a great way to end the episode. You know, it's funny. Normally when an episode of WandaVision ends, it like totally catches me by surprise. I don't know if that is the same way for you, but when an episode of WandaVision ends, like, wait, what? That's it? It's over? When she said, and that makes you the Scarlet Witch, as soon as she said it, number one, it was awesome. But number two, you knew that was the end of the episode. They're like, that's your mic drop, right? You don't keep talking after the mic drop. That makes you the Scarlet Witch. That was the mic drop. So as soon as the mic drop happened, I knew, well, that's the end of the episode. They're not going to go any further than that. All right, next up, Nick Ward writes, what's with Westview? A cop in episode 4 said it doesn't exist. Where did it come from? Who sent her there and why? Clearly, that letter wasn't from Viz. Oh, the letter was from Viz. And the reason that, remember, they said in the episode, the reason the cop said there's no such thing as Westview, even though they were standing right in front of a sign that said Westview, is clearly Wanda's spell went beyond the hex. So that people outside of the hex would just immediately outside the hex wouldn't even remember that it existed. So that was all explained in episode 4. They did lay all that out in episode 4. All right, next up. Leo Lang writes, now Wanda will have to witness Vision getting murdered a third time and maybe a fourth. Remember, now we've got 2 Visions to die. We've got White Vision to die, and we've got her created Vision's going to die. She's going to watch Vision die 1, 2, 3, 4 times, Wanda. And as the count in Sesame Street would go, 4 times, 4 Vision deaths. I mean, it's going to be rough, man. 4. And her kids. All right, Anthony Ashmask writes, I am tired of people trying to bring sentient robots back. Why did Hayward even revive Vision? Isn't this the same kind of experiment that unleashed Ultron? It absolutely is. Have they not learned from Tony's mistakes? But that's the thing about it. It's everybody thinks that was a mistake, but we can do it better. And that happens in real life too. It's like, yeah, that was a mistake, but we've learned lessons from that mistake and we can do it better. We can make sure that terrible, horrible thing doesn't happen again. And inevitably, that the terrible, horrible thing always happens again. So you're right. You'd think they'd learn their lesson. Casey McNatt writes, I'm actually confused about something. How was Hayward tracking Vision in the Hex if it wasn't Vision in the first place? They explained that in the thing. They were tracking vibranium, the decay signature of vibranium, which my theory is inside the Hex, That's what it is. When he goes outside of the hex, it cannot exist. It ceases being vibranium and flakes apart like a pastry. And it flies it all back in because this vision cannot exist outside the hex. But in the hex, it's as vibranium outside the hex. So that's how he was tracking him. Next up, Sam Edwards writes, Is the new Vision Ultron voiced by James Spader? I don't think so, but that's an interesting theory. He's in the cast. I don't think he's in the cast. A huge UK fan since 2013. Helped me through revising GCSEs. I'm not sure what that is. A levels, and now at work. Everyone in class on Spotify, I'd listen to you. Well, thank you so much for that, Sam. I appreciate that. But listen, somebody just brought up a second ago, what if this new white Vision is voiced by James Spader? I hadn't even considered that, and that would be damn great because I practically watch The Blacklist just so I can hear James Spader talk. And so that would be pretty awesome. Again, I don't think that's what they're doing, but it would be kind of cool if they did. I'd be down for that. I'd be excited about that. All right, next up, Steve Koonin writes, You're supposed to be a myth, a being capable of spontaneous creation. This is Chaos Magic Wanda, and that makes you Scarlet Witch chills. That whole last little bit. And also the fact that she calls her dangerous. Like, you're dangerous. And that, again, the comics are the comics, the movies and the TV shows are the movies and the TV shows. They're different things. But that felt very familiar to when Professor Xavier in the House of M says, Wanda is just too dangerous to live. I think we need to actually kill Wanda. She's too dangerous. And so when we heard Agatha say that, I had little, memories of that from House of M. So maybe, I don't know. It was just a very, very cool way to end that episode. Casey McNatt writes, Could you just imagine what a troll move it would be if Paul Bettany's major cameo was himself as White Vision? It's been mentioned several times, man, and maybe it is. I still believe we are still going to get a significant cameo in one way, shape, or form in the final episode. I don't think Paul Bettany was talking about himself, but oh my God, if he was, that would be like, what is the ultimate level again in Dragon Ball? 9,000? Is that the number? Anyway, it would be over 9,000. That would be trolling at over 9,000. All right, next up. Raymond 2000 writes, I guess I'm the only one that thought this episode was meh. Though I usually don't like these types of episodes on TV shows. But seriously, next week's needs to be an hour or more. Again, I don't think it will be an hour or more. I think it'll be close, though. I think it will be the longest episode of the franchise. I think it'll probably, but I'm guessing it's going to be in anywhere around 45 to 50 minute range. Not including credits. Fingers crossed so that you're right. Fingers crossed that you're right. And they've got a lot of ground to cover here, Raymond. They got a lot of ground. They got to, again, the number of conflicts they've got to resolve. They got to resolve the sword issue. They got to resolve the Agnes issue. They got to resolve White Vision issue. They got to resolve the Evan Peters stuff. What's going on with Monica? What's going on with Jimmy outside of the Hex? I mean, there's still a lot of ground to cover and only one episode to do it. I hope you're right, man. I think it'll be 45 to 50 minutes, not including credits, but I hope you're right and it's well over an hour. Fingers crossed. Cam K writes, so, fake Vision combined with White Vision maybe equals real Vision. Again, then you have to address the problem that in Spider-Man Far From Home, they said Vision's dead and it doesn't exist. So, maybe they find a way to do that. But listen, it is the Marvel fake death universe. We killed Vision once. Ha, ha, ha. We killed Vision twice. Ha, ha, ha. And he just keeps coming back. It's the Marvel fake death universe, everybody. Nobody stays dead. But I got a feeling he's not. I don't think he's getting out of this. And I think we're setting up for double tragedy again. Wanda's got to watch Vision die again and die again twice. Her own creation Vision is going to be ended, and she's got to watch the White Vision die too. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. All right. Abel Leon writes, 1 of 4. Kevin Feige has done it again. He has revolutionized the movie theater industry with the MCU, and arguably no one has been able to keep up with the high quality and consistency that he brings for Disney. And now he's doing it with his shows. Now, I know this is still very early, but I would be shocked, or better yet, impressed if there is a show, better yet impressed if this show better than WandaVision, and that Elizabeth Olsen doesn't get nominated for an Emmy. So far, WandaVision is the show to beat with the best executive producer. This one, What is Grief? If not Love Persevering. Again, listen, I think it's way too early. Listen, we as comic book material fans, whether it's of these shows or the movies, whatever, we often rush to proclaim anything that's good in them to be Oscar worthy. And that quite often is from a limited point of view. I usually find the people that say, Avengers Infinity War should have won Best Picture have not actually watched all the other nominated films for Best Picture. But that's what we do. We do that. But I'm telling you, Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany and Catherine Hahn, for that matter, are making a serious case for real legitimate awards nominations. They are making a very serious case for it. Elizabeth Olsen has been nothing short of stunning. This has been her best performance in the series so far. Paul Bettany has consistently made this thing work. That scene with him and Wanda sitting in her room at the Avengers compound, Bettany was brilliant in that. Catherine Hahn just crushes everything that she does. We, as comic book, movie, and TV fans, are guilty of way overvaluing the movies and shows and the performances in them. But with this, they're building a real solid case, Abel. They really are building a solid case. So we will see. All right, Christina B. writes, what if the Luke level cameo is Dick Van Dyke? I'm telling you, it should be Dick Van Dyke. He was on set as a consultant. They could have snuck him in there. Maybe. I mean, I doubt it is. But I want to, not only do I want to see Dick Van Dyke showing up, I want him to have a cane, dancing, and singing a song about being a big evil bad guy. I want to see the works. I want to see all of it, Christina. I want to see it all. All right, next up. Alpha writes, Agatha's mom had a blue energy crown when fighting. I predict Wanda will get her headband when powered up and it'll be red energy around her face. I think you're right. Again, I didn't even notice that crown thing. I didn't even notice the crown thing on her mother the first time I watched the show. It was the second time I watched it. I'm like, wait a minute. It looks like the Wanda kind of thing. And that's kind of what suggests that this is a lineage sort of thing of witches. And I think you're right. I mean, I said before that, somebody wrote in and said to me, John, what do you think the chances are that this show will end with Wanda being in her classic Wanda Scarlet Witch costume? And I said, no, the Scarlet Witch costumes would look ridiculous. But now that I've seen this episode, now I'm thinking, yeah, they very well may end this season with Wanda now completely pissed off and broken, doing some kind of power thing, and a new costume appears, and it won't look like it does in the comics, but it'll be a version of that from the comics with the head thing and everything. And I think you're on. I think you're right, Alpha. I really do. Next up, Mr. 47 writes, phenomenal episode, absolutely was. So it seems like Wanda had her powers before she touched the stone, and it just amplified what she was already capable of. That's what they seem to be implying. But again, do not forget, we never saw her have powers as a child. That's something that Agatha theorized. There was nothing in the show that definitively said Wanda already had powers when she was a kid. All we heard was Agatha express a theory that, oh, you were probably a young witch, and then the stone amplified witch. Now, the show does seem to imply that. It does. I'm just saying, let's keep in mind that the show never confirmed that. That was just Agatha's theory. All right, next up. AKA Alan Gaming writes, I completely called it with the white vision back when I super chatted you in episode 3, spoiler discussion, just waiting on Hayward as Ultron at the end of episode 9. Again, I didn't think they were going to bring in white vision. So you and a couple of other people speculated in White Vision, and I would say, I mean, that would be interesting. It's possible they do have his body, but I mean, that would be kind of like setting up the same thing as Logan, so I don't think they're going to do it. So nope, I'm saying they're not going to do it. And they did it, and you were right. I still don't think Hayward is Ultron. But just like I was wrong about the Vision thing, maybe I'm wrong about that too. So we'll find out. They do keep showing Ultron at the end of WandaVision. All right, next up. Mr. 47 writes, and the kids seem to be real since Wanda was actually scared for their lives, and Agatha just wanted to know how she did it. No other agenda seeming. Well, don't forget this too. We now know that Vision isn't real, right? We know Vision isn't real. But what happened when her kid came running up to her and said, Mom, I think Dad's dying. What did Vision do? What did Wanda do? She freaked out. She's like, expanded the hex, even though she knows Vision isn't real. But to her Vision is. She knows he's not real. She knows she made him. But in her heart, that's Vision. So the idea of being terrified that Agatha may harm her kids, even if they're not real, she had that same reaction with Vision. She was scared. So I don't think her being scared implies that the kids are real. And the kids could be real, by the way. The kids very well could be real. But it seemed to me like Agatha lumped the kids in with Vision and the town, which are fantasies. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where they go. All right. Abel writes in, also, if this was a movie, it would have won a Golden Globe for Best Comedy. Happy birthday, Jen. Yeah, because the Golden Globes, hey, we need to be popular. Let's nominate the popular movie, but we can't do it for drama. Let's call it a musical or comedy. Yeah. Don't even get me going on the Golden Globes, Abel. Don't even get me going for how useless the Golden Globes are. All right, Mr. 47 writes, they definitely could have blended some true horror along with mystery on this show. Could have been like Hereditary / Blair Witch as a series. Hopefully one day the MCU will fully lean into the horror genre. Do they need to, though? I listen, I like what the MCU has done is that they have done very pure hybrids, right? They haven't done a pure heist movie. They did a comic book heist movie. They didn't do a pure 70s political thriller. They did a comic book 70s political thriller with Winter Soldier. They didn't do a horror movie. They did a comic book horror-ish movie with Doctor Strange. So I think MCU will always, and they should, be a hybrid company, where sometimes pure comic book movies, but sometimes a comic book / something or other. So I don't think they'll ever lean directly, like right into the horror thing. That's just against brand and it doesn't fit what they are. But introduce more elements of that. Do more movies where they have that they are hyphen horror at the same time. That I could see them doing. And I think you're going to see stuff like that, for instance, with Blade, whether it's rated R or not. I think you're going to see some of that stuff with Blade as well. So we'll see. All right. Christina B writes, okay, with the hex being just Wanda and a manifestation of Wanda's psyche, I'm just really confused. They'll land the ending, but I'm scared they won't. Hey, listen, Christina, seriously, no matter how good the show is, right? No matter how good the show is, we have seen some of the greatest TV shows of all time blow the landing. And of course, we're worried and nervous and scared that they won't. And you know, here's the thing, though. This is the thing. If they blow the landing, fine. This show has still been awesome. It's still been awesome. Even if, and there's no reason to believe the episode is going to disappoint us next week, but even if next week's episode disappoints us, it does not undo how great this show has been, how much I have enjoyed watching this show, how much we have enjoyed interacting with each other and theorizing together and talking about and buzzing about this show, even if episode 9 sucks. But yeah, I mean, the best shows sometimes have a very, very hard time sticking that landing, and that could happen, Christina. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully they nail it. Mr. 47 writes, By the way, happy birthday, John. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. My sister's birthday is tomorrow, actually. Hope you have a great time tonight. Safely, of course. Countdown for episode 9 now. That's right. We are now officially in the countdown for episode 9, the final episode of the season. God, I wish this was a good traditional 22 episode show. I really do. But whatever. It's 9 episodes. And I've been loving it. So yeah, Ann and I, we're going to go to my favorite restaurant tonight. I'm very excited about that. A friend of mine sent me a pizza pie, an ice cream pizza pie. I already had a little bit of it, got the rest in the freezer for later tonight when we get home from my favorite restaurant. And yeah, I'm already having a fantastic day, and hanging out here with you guys talking some WandaVision is only making it better. All right, Ian Lewis writes, now the question is, if Fury sanctioned this whole thing and the repercussions, 3-way battle in Captain Marvel 2 with White Vision and Photon. Oh yeah, then you know Monica's going to be part of it too. Monica's going to be part of it too, for sure. Whether she's known as Photon or Spectrum or whatever she's going to call herself in that, she's definitely going to be a part of that too. But you're right. How much of this did Nick Fury know what was going on? You're right. Did Nick Fury sanction this? I mean, the sword thing about trying to get Vision back. Maybe. I mean, it is what... Listen, when you look at the MCU and all the conversations Nick Fury's had, would he have sanctioned trying to get I know he knows he can't get Vision back, but would he sanction trying to get that robot back online as an asset? It sounds like something he would do after coming back from the snap. It sounds like something he might have done. Like, maybe they had his Vision's body for 5 years. Because remember, when Wanda went there, they were just in the process of disassembling all of his parts, right? They were separating his hand from his arm and just in the process of that. It is possible that they were just in possession of the body for all the years of the snap. Nick Fury comes back and says, okay, you've got Vision's body? All right, take him apart, figure out the pieces. We need to get that thing back online. I mean, it could be. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that's a valid theory. So we'll see where they go. All right, next up, Cody John Walker writes, such an awesome show and performance by Elizabeth Olsen. Crazy powerful. If Hayward was tracking the decay of vibranium in the Hex, Wanda basically created vibranium Vision. Is he real? Thoughts? Again, my thought on that is that within the Hex, it's indistinguishable from real. In the Hex, it is absolutely indistinguishable from real. Just like the cars that they drive, the sofas that they're sitting on, the park that they're walking in. In the Hex, it is as real gets. But that's in the Hex. Outside the Hex, it's not. And so that's kind of my theory right now. And that's why Vision, made out of the most indestructible material on Earth in the Hex, goes outside of the Hex, it flakes like a pastry and goes flying because he can't exist outside of it. So that's where my theory is on that right now, but we'll see. Maybe yes, maybe no. Nick C. writes, seems to me that Agatha was hinting at the Scarlet Witch as being a title given to a magically user that specializes in chaos magic. Thoughts? Not exactly, but basically, I mean, that's how I took it at any rate. I took it that way. That the Scarlet Witch is this witch that appears once in a while that delves in and uses the chaos magic. Yeah, maybe not exactly like that, but generally. Again, that's just how I took it, and maybe we're taking it the wrong way, but I'm with you on that, Nick. That is how I interpreted it as well. So let's see if they expand on that a little bit as we get into episode 9. CJ Legends 89 writes, whoever it was yesterday on your show, John, who predicted that Vision versus Vision would happen, they deserve a shout out. Total oh my God moment. Yeah. And it has been mentioned before by a couple of others as well. And I never thought they would do it. I didn't think they would go there. I thought it was too similar to Logan versus Logan, but here we are. And I got to tell you, when the camera panned up and they showed White Vision, I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. So yeah, you're absolutely right, CJ. I'm with you on that. All right, Cody John Walker writes, Agatha's so-called theory, she stated, Infinity Stone amplified something already within Wanda. We've heard X-Men is future. We've heard X-Men is future, but could this be the mutant gene? No. She will help it manifest in others? No. The implication was absolutely 100% razor clear. She's a witch. She was born a witch. Just like witches before. Now, I can already hear some people,
But John, maybe witches are mutants.
no, witches aren't mutants. Mutants aren't all born with the exact same powers, right? Whereas all those witches in their coven, they practice the art of witchcraft, all that kind of stuff. I thought, at least, and I could be wrong. I mean, we could get into episode 9 totally. I'm not saying I can't. We could get into episode 9 and find out I'm totally wrong. But no, listen, Kevin Feige has said over and over and over again, he made it clear, I'm not bringing in X-Men or mutants or anything like that until my existing plan, which is the next 5 years. I've got the next 5 years planned out. Then I will start bringing in X-Men and things like that. And I mean, again, to me, that whole thing made it very clear that Wanda is not a mutant. She is a witch. Which, by the way, I didn't think she was actually going to be a literal witch either. I thought she just got powers from the Infinity Stone. I didn't think she was actually going to be a real witch, but that seems to be what the message of episode 8 was. She is a witch. And beyond that, she is the Scarlet Witch. It's not an X gene. She's not a mutant. She's nothing like that. She's the Scarlet Witch. And they've kind of creating this new mythology around it. So now again, we may get into episode 9 and find out that I'm wrong. Right? I was wrong about Vision versus Vision. So, I mean, it could be. But no, I mean, I feel like everybody is desperately trying to find a way to make this connect to X-Men. And I've said from the beginning, I really don't think they're doing that. Not because I figured it out, but because Kevin Feige said, I got the next 5 years planned out. That was 3 years ago. I've got the next 5 years planned out. Then I will start to deal with X-Men and mutants and all that kind of stuff. And we still got 2 years to go. But again, he may have changed his mind. We'll find out. But no, I think it made it really, really clear. I think they made it really, really clear that Wanda is a witch. Look, I was right about Vision. I was right about Quicksilver. I was right about the flashbacks. I was right about the sitcoms. I was right about a lot of that. I was wrong about the Vision thing, absolutely wrong about that. I was wrong. Well, I did my whole list at the beginning of the show. In case you're joining us late, I started off today's show by going, let's look at all the things I was right about so far. And now let's look at all the things I was wrong about so far. And it's like all of us. We've had a bunch of things we're right about, a bunch of things we're wrong about. But again, I just looking at it, here's the thing. Right now, it seems to me they've made it so clear that Wanda is not a mutant. There has never been any hint. There hasn't been the slightest hint or the slightest reference in this show to multiverse. There's been no hint, no reference to anything X-Men or mutant-y, none of that. And we're going into the final episode. And I feel like episode 8 just really drove the point home. I think if you watch the show objectively, if you didn't know anything about X-Men and you didn't come into this show with an expectation that we're going to see mutants and X-Men, I don't think anybody would walk away from the show, would walk away from episode 8 and go, I think she's something called a mutant. No, I think the show made it really clear. She's a witch. That's it. And I feel like a lot of us have wanted to come to the show and are desperately trying to find a way that this connects to X-Men and this is going to bring in mutants. And it's happened every single time. Like the history of the MCU, ever since it was announced that Disney was taking over Fox, every single MCU thing that has come out since has been a big chunk of the fan base saying, this is the movie that they're introducing mutants. And then they don't. And then the next movie's coming out and they say, this is the movie that's going to introduce mutants. And they don't. And then Infinity War happens with the snap. Endgame is going to when they're going to introduce mutants because of the snap. And then they don't. Spider-Man Far From Home. This is where we're now going to see that there are mutants in the world, everybody said. And then they don't. And then we come into WandaVision and everybody's again, this is where they're going to bring in mutants. Now, eventually, you're going to be right. Eventually, we're going to hit a point where there are mutants, and maybe it will be in episode 9. Maybe it will be in episode 9. But I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the following. Kevin Feige said nothing for 5 years. In this show so far, there hasn't been a single reference to X-Men or mutations or mutants, and we're going into the final episode. We just saw an episode where Agatha clearly says that she was a witch. You were a young witch. Your power was amplified by an infinity stone, and these are spells. And in these glyphs I have, another witch cannot cast her powers, and she was powerless. Therefore, she's a witch. I feel like I'm that guy from the Monty Python thing. And if she floats like a duck, she's a witch. That's what I feel like I'm doing right now. But I just think there is nothing to suggest that mutants are going to be brought up. But Kevin Feige has a way of surprising us. And so I don't know. Like, look, I would say this. And this will be the last time I bring up or talk about the mutants and everything like that maybe happening. I would be willing to bet $10. I would be willing to bet $10 that we are not going to get any reference, nothing. This is not about mutants or anything like that. And we're going into the final episode too, and still nothing about mutants. I'd be willing to put $10 on it. But because Kevin Feige has a way of shocking the world, I wouldn't put $100 on it. Like, seriously, if you were in the room with me and said to me, okay, Campea, if you're so sure they're not going to say mutants, I'll bet you $100. I would go, I'm not that sure. I can't take that bet because it is Kevin Feige. So you never know. So look, I guess end of the day, I think everything makes it clear we're not getting mutants. But I don't think you're crazy if you are still holding on to the idea that we will in episode 9. Because it is the MCU. It's Kevin Feige. It is the unexpected. It is the fastball. It is the changeup. It's all of it. So I don't think it is. I'm sticking with that. I said that from the beginning. I'm sticking with it right through to the end of episode 9. But you ain't crazy if you think it's possible because this is the MCU and it's Kevin Feige. And we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Well, it's going to be a long wait till next week, man. It is going to be a long wait to next week. All right, next up. Cody John Walker writes, lastly, had to give you a shout out to say happy freaking birthday. Thank you, man. Hope you have a grand day. Thanks for doing this vid on your birthday. You're awesome. You are a good Canadian kid yourself. Oh, thank you so much, man. It's always nice when somebody wants to write in just to say something nice, particularly on my birthday. So thank you, Cody John Walker. And thank you for letting me have so much fun doing this. I really appreciate that, man. All right, next up. Nick C writes, would Wanda's powers be equivalent to an Omega level mutant in the comics? Pretty much. Curious what the future holds if Wanda gets just a little bit of training. Yeah, listen, the thing about, I was complaining about this the other day on my show. The problem with, like, if even in the comics, they make too many characters way too powerful. Like a number of years ago, they introduced this concept of an Omega level mutant, right? Which is like a mutant that is like the top shelf of powerful that you can be. Like there's mutants, and then there are Omega level mutants. And the problem was when they first introduced that concept, it was a small club. It was a small club. And so it meant something when somebody was an Omega level mutant. But then they started like, this person's now an Omega level mutant, and that's an Omega. They even said Iceman, when fully tapping into his full potential, that even Iceman, they're saying, is an Omega level mutant. And it just got to the point where like the phrase Omega level mutant almost doesn't even mean anything anymore. So I mean, Protoss X is saying the thing, Iceman is not Omega. I don't agree with that. Oh, it doesn't matter if you agree with that, Protoss. That's what they said. Emma Frost said that he is an Omega level mutant. And I think that's ridiculous. And you think that's ridiculous, but it ain't up to you and me. That's what they said in the comics. So anyway, blah. Anyway, yeah. So it's just, they make so many of them Omega level now that it kind of loses its specialness. But anyway, yes. When you have a being like Wanda, I mean, in the comics themselves, when Professor X says she is she is a living threat to the entire fabric of reality, and we may need to kill her. That is as good of a definition of an Omega level mutant as I've ever heard. Now, of course, in the show, she's not a mutant. In the MCU, she's not a mutant. But is her power level at that? Hey, man, she just turned an entire city, an entire town, into a living sitcom. Yeah, she seems pretty powerful, man. She seems pretty powerful. Let's see. Rena Senorita writes, "Oh my God, this whole episode broke me. Me too. I haven't cried this much since Endgame. Liz Olsen is so brilliant in this and deserves an Emmy for her performance." Well, again, deserving an Emmy, that depends. That depends. It's not about how good she does. It's about how good do other actresses do in their roles. And there may be other actresses that do an even better job in their roles than Elizabeth does. But she is certainly making a case. And Paul Bettany is too. And I think Catherine Hahn is as well. I think they're all making some pretty compelling cases for Emmy attention when the Emmys were. But you're right, Rena, this whole episode was just punching you in the face with the feels, culminating like this beautiful scene with her standing over Vision. I can't feel you. That beautiful scene of what is grief if not love persevering. The beautiful scene of her looking at the note for us to grow old in, culminating. And the beautiful scene of her dropping to her knees and screaming out in her pain, creating the hex, and then culminating in the final delusion. Creating Vision, seeing him, and then the camera comes back to her, and now she's in black and white too, as the 50s sitcom housewife with the big smile, and she has immersed herself in her fantasy to deal with her grief. Fuck! That's the whole damn thing was so powerful. It was so powerful. I was just so damn amazed by it. All right, next up. Taki75 writes, "Even her car is scarlet." I didn't notice that. I'm going to have to go back. Was it? I got to go back and watch that again if that's true. That's kind of funny. Irina also writes, "Also, can we now finally stop giving Hayward the benefit of the doubt? Monica was right. He's a liar trying to make Wanda look like the villain." I don't agree. Now listen, the whole thing making it look like Wanda stole the thing, that was shady. That was shady. But other than that, what have we seen him do? We saw him show, I think, a lot of kindness to Wanda, letting her come in, see Vision's body, see for herself, all that kind of stuff. He's like, "Look, I can't let you take him, but I can at least let you say goodbye," and all that kind of stuff. And then he's seen Wanda take an entire town hostage. Like, we get it. We're the audience. We're watching Wanda, this broken person, blah, blah, blah. But from Hayward's point of view, she is a threat. She is taken, and let's not lose sight of that. To somebody in that world looking from the outside in, she is a superpowered being that has literally taken an entire town prisoner and made them her slaves to act out a fantasy so she can deal with her grief. She has literally taken their lives from them. 1,000 people. She has taken their lives from them so they can play out her fantasy so she doesn't have to deal with her grief. That's what Hayward sees. That's what I think a lot of people living in that world looking at the situation from the outside in would see. This superpowered criminal who seized an entire town and against their will took the lives of thousands of people away from them, taking their free will away from them, taking their choices, and turned them into her puppets to live out her fantasy. That's what Hayward sees. And when you look at it from that point of view, Wanda's the bad guy. Wanda's the bad guy. And I'm sorry, this is not going to sit well with some people, but it's got to be said. When you look at the shady things that Hayward has done compared to the shady things Wanda has done, Wanda's shady factor way outweighs the shade. What did Hayward do? Okay, he made it look like Wanda stole the body. Okay. What did Hayward do? He said a mean thing to Monica when he brought up her mom. And that was dick. That was a dick move. It was a dick move. Okay. He was a little shady. Yeah. Wanda took an entire town hostage. Wanda took away the free will of thousands of people. Wanda hijacked the lives of thousands of people and turned them into her puppets for her own purposes and her own desires. That's what Wanda did. You're going to tell me that the bringing up Monica's mom was worse than what Wanda did? Listen, I'm sorry, but if you stand back and look at what are the bad things that Hayward has done versus what are the bad things that Wanda's done, I'm sorry, it's not even close. Wanda's the bad guy. We know Wanda. We love Wanda. We empathize with Wanda. We know her history and her pain and what led her to that. But I'm sorry, at the end of the day, Wanda is doing, she's not evil, but she is doing great evil. Wanda isn't evil, but she is doing great evil for her own selfish purposes. How does that compare to what Hayward's done? Hayward is a glimmering, shiny good guy when you compare to what Wanda's done. But again, we do have another episode to go. Now, somebody's pointing out Hayward sent a missile to kill Wanda because Wanda is a terrorist who took an entire city captive and was using the people's lives for her as her own puppets, and she wasn't giving it up. Of course he sent in a missile to try to take her out. That's what the director of Sword should have done. Shady? Yes. Total dick? Absolutely. But if you had to hold up the actions of Wanda and the actions of Hayward and say which one's the bad guy, it's Wanda by a mile. It's Wanda by a mile. And of course, you and I as audience members, we get to see it from a certain perspective. We know her history, and we know the tragedy in her life, and we know the pains that she suffered, and we know that in her heart she's a good person and she wants to do good. But that aside, if we're not the audience member, we're just looking at what's happening. She has committed a great evil, a huge evil. And we should not forget that. And we got to remember too that Hayward here's the thing. Think about this. Hayward sees Monica the way Tony Stark saw Thanos. Think about that. Hayward looks at the things that Wanda is doing, and he sees her the way that Tony Stark saw Thanos, as a great and powerful threat who is doing great evil. Not on the same level that Thanos did, but so to Hayward, he's thinking he's doing what needs to be done, trying to be the hero. He thinks he's being the hero. He is trying to save people. And maybe he's doing shady things in an attempt to do it, but Hayward is trying to save an entire town of people who are under the control and thumb of an out-of-control, maniac, superpowered being that we know and love as Wanda. But again, we'll see. I mean, listen, we may get into episode 9 and find out that Hayward was Ultron all along. I mean, I don't think it is, but as some other people are theorizing, we may get into episode 9 and find out that Hayward was Ultron all along. Or that Hayward is working in, I don't know, maybe he's former Hydra. Or maybe we may find all that out. But I'm still saying, just for me, for now, what have we actually seen him do? Have you really seen him do anything that is really objectively evil? I'm not sure we have. But I don't know. Could be all big misdirect, and we may see Hayward going, you know, Monica, out of respect for your mother, I was putting up with you. And then his voice starts to change. but now I see that you are going to stand in my way. And as his voice continues to change, it changes into the voice of James Spader. And then his skin starts to change, and then standing in front of her is Ultron. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. I'm not laying out that whole argument of the actions of Wanda versus the actions of Hayward as a way to convince you that I'm right. I'm giving you that argument to express why I'm holding this particular position right now. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Somebody's writing in, Hayward is Ron Jeremy. Maybe that is. Maybe it is. All right, let's move on here. Tacky75 writes, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Okay, Taki75 writes, one thing that shocked me last week was that nobody was talking about Hayward saying that they are ready to launch, and now here we are. Well, no, I think a lot of people were talking about, like, ready to launch what? Ready to launch the mission? Ready to launch the nuke? Ready to launch whatever. I think we knew that was significant, but we had no idea what it was he was talking about. You know what I mean? We just had no idea what he was talking about. So I think we did make an issue out of it. We just didn't, but until we got an idea about what on earth is he referring to, because we know he's there to do something like launch the op, launch the mission, launch the paratroopers, launch, our, Thanksgiving Day sale. I mean, I don't know. So there wasn't a lot of purpose, I think, for us, Taki, to like kind of really spend a lot of time focusing on it when we just really could have meant anything. But now, oh my God, we knew it meant something pretty big. The damn thing, they're launching the Vision Bot. That's what I think I'll call them. It's not Vision, it's the Vision Bot. Or White Vision. They were launching White Vision. Launch the catapult. Some people are saying in live chat, launch the catapult. Okay. Next up. Sam Edwards writes, guy who mentioned Dick Van Dyke last night is a genius. I love Dick Van Dyke. The world always needs more Dick Van Dyke, in my opinion. All right, Mark Blazer writes, oh my God, the whitest vision of them all. That wasn't just white vision. That was like pure Snow White vision. Vincent Smoke just sends in a super chat. Thank you very much. Also writes in again, says, in Infinity War, Bruce, I'm saying that if we take out the stone, there's still a whole lot of vision left. Perhaps the best parts. Do you think he does? Do I think he does what? I'm saying that if they take out the stone, there's still a whole lot of vision left. Perhaps the best parts. Do you think he does? Well, I'm not quite sure what it is you mean, the way you word that, but here's what I said once before. I think the problem with them all that they were having with that in Endgame, or in Infinity War, I should say, was the fact that there was not everything about Vision was the stone. There was Tony, there was Bruce, there was something else, right? And there is a lot, even without the stone, there's a lot of what makes Vision who he is, maybe the best parts. The problem was there was no way for Vision to exist without the stone. Shuri, being the smartest person in the MCU, so says Kevin Feige, smarter than Bruce, smarter than Tony, Shuri had a thought that she thought might have worked. That there might be a way that I can do this, that I can remove the stone and all that's left of Vision can still survive. Because, yeah, I think Bruce was right. Like, look, there's a lot of the stuff that is Vision that isn't the stone. The problem is it can't exist without the stone. Shuri thought she might have had a way to maintain Vision and let those parts of him survive even without the stone. The problem, of course, is she was never able to pull it off. She just ran out of time. And she had to ditch it before she could do anything about it. Vision gets back up off the table, goes and gets himself back into the fight, and gets himself killed twice. So I don't think Wanda's not a walking hard drive. She wasn't walking around with the backup files and copies that Shuri made and she manifested that. It's a completely different thing, I think. Now, you could then ask, could those other things of Vision still be in the Vision body? I don't think so. He was dead. It's gone. I think that's kind of what they were signifying when Wanda was standing over the body and like looking for him in there. And she said, I can't feel you. He's gone. I really think he's gone. I think that was something they were trying to do, but now he's gone. Or, who knows? Maybe we'll figure it out. All right. Thanks for that, man. Next up, Rena writes, so it was her all along who stopped the Stark missile from going off. I've always believed that Wanda may have had powers before the Mind Stone, but I think this pretty much confirmed my theory. Does seem to be what they're implying. Again, I think it's important for us to remember that even while I agree with you, Rena, I agree with you, but I think you and I both need to remember that the show never actually confirmed that Wanda had powers. They never showed her using powers when she was younger. All we saw was Agatha voicing a theory. Agatha theorizing that Wanda must have already had witch-like powers when she was young. But we never actually saw it, right? Now, again, I agree with you. I think that is what the show is implying, and I think that's the way it's going to play out. But again, let's not get too solidified in that theory because it very well could. They never showed it. And unless they show it, it's not real. So I don't know. But I agree with you. In general, I think I agree with you on that. All right. Mr. 47 writes, the way the episode runs through Wanda's past traumas played out beautifully, and to see her in Vision in the beginning was so sweet, then tragedy. And when Wanda tearfully says to Vision's lifeless corpse, I can't feel you. Dude, just reading your words saying that like still stirs something in me. So powerful, plus she didn't take his body after all. Yeah. Because I think she understood, look, because what Hayward was telling her was true, right? I mean, it made sense. Because when he says, there were two things that he said to her. One was just true. The other was insensitive, but also true. The very true thing that I think resonated with Wanda when she said, I just want to bury him. And he said to her, I can't just let you walk out of here with $3 billion worth of vibranium just to bury in the ground. And I think that resonated. I think Wanda realized, yeah, you're right. That's true. Now, the other part that was kind of insensitive of him to say, when she said, he's all I have, and Hayward said it was true, but it was insensitive to say, when he said back to her, but that's the thing, he's not yours. And that was harsh, and that was insensitive, and it was the wrong thing to say. Like the first thing he said, I think that resonated with Wanda. He said, look, I can't let you just walk out of here with $3 billion of vibranium just so you can bury it in the ground. And I think you could see it on her face too, that she was like, yeah, well, when you put it like that, that makes sense. The second thing was pretty insensitive. It was pretty insensitive, but still that at the end of the day, she understood walking away with his body was kind of pointless. There was nothing to do or to accomplish there. And, but it's such a powerful, powerful scene, man. So powerful that when she's like, and she repeats it, I can't feel you. And you just think back to Infinity War when she's with him and she says, all I feel is you. And then I can't feel you. Oh God, that was so well done, man. That was so well done. Okay. Next up, KM Reviews writes, I still think Vision awakes Pietro. We find out he's an X-Man. I'm just saying, who better to fight Cataract than Magneto? One can hope. Again, listen, honestly, I'm going to say this, and I know this is going to be unpopular. All right? But fuck X-Men. This show doesn't need X-Men. This show is so good, it doesn't need Magneto to show up. And believe me, listen, if Magneto shows up, I will freak out as much as anybody, all right? I will absolutely freak out as much as everybody else. Absolutely. But you know what? This show is good enough, it doesn't need Magneto. This show isn't so weak, it has to have the X-Men appear. This show is so fundamentally sound in its beautiful narration that it doesn't need to have some huge, this is how mutants come into the universe. This show has such beautifully written and performed characters that we don't need some other superstar showing up. It's at the end of the day, WandaVision, now that we're heading into the final episode, WandaVision is so good and written so well and performs so beautifully with such resonant characters and human experiences in it that it's good enough. It doesn't need all this other stuff. It doesn't need the X-Men to show up. It doesn't need mutation. It doesn't need John Krasinski to pop up as Reed Richards. And again, saying that, if a lot of these things had happened, I would have been jumping up and down just like everybody. But fuck the X-Men. This show doesn't need them. It doesn't need them. Seriously, is there anything about this show that is bad because they didn't say Wanda was a mutant? Is her standing over Vision saying, I can't feel you, made any less beautiful because Reed Richards didn't show up as the engineer? Was there anything one iota less powerful in WandaVision or less powerful from that line, what is grief if not love persevering? Was anything taken away from that line at all because Dormammu wasn't the bad guy behind it all? Or are we left with, oh my God, this show is outstanding and it didn't need any of that. It didn't need any of that. It didn't need those crutches. And again, I say that fully acknowledging that, oh my God, if they had cut away and there's Ian McKellen saying, leave my daughter alone, I would have freaked out as much as anybody. Make no mistake. But this show didn't need it. Fuck all that stuff. It didn't need it. And it'll come. If it doesn't come in episode 9, which I don't think it will, but it's still possible, but it'll come. The X-Men are coming. Mutants are coming. The Fantastic Four are coming. These things are all coming. They're now all on Kevin Feige's roadmap. But WandaVision didn't need them. WandaVision was executed as a brilliant idea for a show with a beautiful story, a human sort of story with beautiful characters in its own narrative, and it didn't need the gag and the gimmick and the hoopla of this is where X-Men are going to show up. And they have the X-Men flag. It didn't need it. But I don't know. I don't know. But really when you think about it, the X-Men, WandaVision has been so brilliantly done that we get that it creates these openings for these theories and these ideas, and it just makes us anticipate all that future stuff like mutants and X-Men and Fantastic Four. It just makes us anticipate it so much. And when you anticipate something a lot, sure, you kind of wish it would come sooner rather than later. For example, I've got a delicious thing of ice cream in my freezer right now. I kind of wish I could eat it right now, even though I know it's coming a little bit later. So it's totally understandable that people like me and you are like, man, oh my God, imagine if Magneto shows up at the end. Holy shit, imagine if Patrick Stewart shows up and he says, I think I can be of some help. And he rolls in on his X-Men wheelchair and all that. Yeah, I can theorize about that and fantasize about that and think about how cool that would be and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and episode 9 starts and finishes and there are no X-Men and there's no Reed Richards and there's no multiverse brought in quite yet, and Wanda's a witch, not a mutant, and all that kind of stuff, is anything taken away from how brilliant WandaVision has been? And I would suggest no. I would suggest no. This thing has been purely brilliant, and it didn't need any of that stuff. So yeah, that's just kind of my thought on that. But again, episode 9 is still to come. Who knows what they're going to throw at us, right? Maybe it will be Charles. Maybe it will be Eric. Maybe it will be Mephisto. Maybe it will be, Peter from the X-Men universe. And remember, I'm saying I still think these are possibilities. But if it's not, they still gave us the best possible show that I ever conceived that they were capable of giving us. I'll be honest with you, I never thought they were capable. I knew they make great stuff, but I did not think Kevin Feige and his team were capable of giving us something like this. I just thought it was too outside their wheelhouse. And oh my God, we were wrong. And it's really cool to see. Anyway. Okay, next up. Sorry, I went off on that a lot. And we only got a couple of minutes left here, guys. I actually have to go and Anne needs me to go and get ready so we can go for my birthday dinner. Rena writes in, I'm also now 3,000% convinced that Doctor Strange shows up. Still so many questions to answer, and I hope they give us at least 70 minutes of runtime. Wouldn't that be glorious if they do? Of runtime with hopefully a Magneto Professor-esque cameo at the end. And again, I would say this. It's cool for us to fantasize about that and get hyped about that, but don't do what we fans, like I've been guilty of this, you've been guilty. Don't be so invested in that if it doesn't happen, you make yourself miss out on how good it was without it. You know what I mean? Because I think we as fans, myself included, we get so invested in certain things that we want to see happen that we miss out on something that was just as good, if not better, that happened because we're kind of butthurt that the thing we were hoping happened didn't happen. I mean, I've done that. You've done that. We've all done that. And I'd say, and now the Doctor Strange thing, though, and let's end with the Doctor Strange thing. The Doctor Strange thing is really fascinating because, you know, that there is a very definitive, whereas there's been no mention of multiverse, other than the Nexus. I mean, there's that too. But let's go to mutants. There has been no mention of mutants, no hint or mention of X-Men or anything like that in the show. The fact is, with Doctor Strange, with all the magic, the book that was in Agatha's basement, and most importantly, the fact that we know, because Kevin Feige has said that WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, Doctor Strange 2 are part of one story arc. Because of that very tangible narrative connection, the Doctor Strange thing is very viable. Now, I'm not like you, Rena. I'm not convinced 3,000%. And I wouldn't even say it's likely that he does. But if, you know, all of a sudden a battle's going on and it looks like they're going to lose, and then all of a sudden we hear that classic sound of his cape whooshing, and hey, douchebag, they said the way Doctor Strange would say it, and Benedict Cumberbatch shows up, I'm not going to be surprised in the least. Not surprised in the least, because there is very tangible, real connective tissue there. There's connected tissue there for narratively for that to happen. So yeah, I'm not predicting we will see Doctor Strange, but I will not in the slightest be surprised if he does at this point. I've always thought it was more likely that Spider-Man would show up because Spider-Man is the next movie. I've always been more convinced that Wong would show up. More like from Doctor Strange, more than Doctor Strange himself. But as things have progressed and as each episode plays out, and now especially after the last episode, now I think it's even more possible that it could be Doctor Strange. Again, I'm not saying it's likely. I'm not predicting he will show up, but I will not be surprised in the least. And you very well could be right about that. All right. That will do it for this installment of the WandaVision spoiler discussions. Guys, there's still a lot more to come from Lorenzo and NR99 and on. I did mention that I only had 3.5 hours today to do this because it is my birthday today and Ann needs us to go out for it. But there will be companions. There will be part 2 and part 3 of this coming. Probably one from me. You guys seem to really enjoy it when I get Robert Meyer Burnett to jump in and do one as well, so he can put his different perspective from mine on it. And I like mixing up perspectives. I like giving different points of view. So we will get through number 2 and probably number 3. So yeah, if you guys sent in one of these questions, don't worry. Every single one of them is going to be answered, and they're all going to be answered by the end of the weekend. Just hang tight, be a little bit patient with us. We'll get them. But that was, oh my God, that 3.5 hours flew by. That 3.5 hours absolutely flew by. Thank you to all of you guys who are here joining with us as we talk about WandaVision. We've got one more episode to go. One more episode to go. before we wrap up WandaVision. I cannot wait. Don't forget, guys, we are going to do the pregame show on Thursday. So we're going to do one more pregame show leading up to the final episode of WandaVision. And then, of course, 1 week from today, we will be doing our final WandaVision spoiler episode. I hope you guys will join us for that as well. Don't forget the John Campea Show. It comes back on Monday. I hope to see you guys there. Special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about and some really good theories to hear. Number two, you supported our channel while you did it along the way. And all of us involved here with the channel, from me, Kimberly, Ray, Aaron, Rob, everybody involved with our channel. Thank you guys very, very much for your support. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thanks so much for being here. Once again, keep your eyes open for part 2 and maybe even part 3 of our WandaVision episode 8 spoiler discussion. My name is John Campea, guys, and until next time, please stand by.